this podcast. You know, last one, part one, I was talking about synchronicities over the last few years with symbols that was reoccurring, especially in the media. Today, I'm gonna start off by talking about, what is Corona and the energy of royalty around this Corona season, and anything that's relevant to now, up until this point. How you feeling?
Man, I'm good, man. Been chilling. Everything clean, everything quarantine.
Okay. One thing I like about this quarantine, people is making masks. It's like if anybody's gonna invest into anything, it's a mask.
Feels like the purge. I like the beginning stages of the purge. Like they show you the first purge, but they don't really show you like the boring part where people are just chilling before the food runs out, when people are partying, having fun, and then all of a sudden the government sanctions the purge, and everybody already has masks. If you don't have a full-on, underwater helmet, scuba diving helmet, you at least got a face mask that'll cover your nose and mouth.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's rocking bandanas. I be seeing people looking like full-fledged gangbangers.
Gangbangers. Like, dang, I ain't seen so many Crips and Bloods in the Oakland alone.
Man.
And all type of stuff is happening right now. They just released evidence of UFO. I think the Navy. What was it? The Navy? Yeah, no. The Pentagon released the information, and I think the information came from the Navy. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You're showing us aliens, and people on the internet was talking about aliens beforehand. They was like, watch. What's next? Aliens after coronavirus? First COVID, now Corona, then aliens? Well, guess what?
Hey, they ain't no aliens. Those are Germans from Argentina, man. Stop it.
Yeah, they probably are Germans from Argentina. What if they were like dark-skinned Germans?
That's just they're using the Watchmen technology. Like we first gotta become God, and then we'll become a regular black guy.
Especially if you're using things such as sun and UV radiation. So I was just thinking about so the energy surrounding Corona, right? So let me pull up the screen. Where is it at? I think this is it. Can you see the screen?
I do.
Okay. So I took the liberty to look up this word called Corona. Corona. Well, the first one, a part of the body resembling or likened to a crown. It's cool. 2, astronomy. The rarefied gaseous envelope of the sun and other stars. The sun's corona is normally visible only during a total solar eclipse, when it is seen as an irregular shape parallel glow surrounding the darkened disk of the moon. Let's actually look up a solar eclipse to get us an idea what one looks like. There you go. So this ring around this solar eclipse. I would presume is what they would call the corona, the crown, rather. Okay, let's go back to the other page. Yeah, the glow around a conductor at high potential. A small circle of light seen around the sun or moon due to diffraction by water droplets. Well, we just saw that eclipse right here. Okay, that's coronation. The cup shaped or trumpet shaped outgrowth at the center of a daffodil or narcissus flower. Okay, for a circular chandelier in a church. Hmm, that's cool. 5, a part of a cornice having a broad vertical face. The definition of corona as an instrument in architecture. And you know, I decided to take up the liberty to look up coronation because corona is literally in coronation. So I'm like, let me look this up. So it says the ceremony of crowning a sovereign or sovereign's consort. Okay, you know, that's interesting. Um, hmm. Late Middle English, Old French from Medieval Latin, coronatio from coronare, coronare to crown, adorned with a garland from corona, see crown. Okay. So basically with corona, we have a lot of crown energy. You know, got a literal crown definition, also dealing with the sun. Now, Donald Trump, Agent Orange, President 45, 54, one of the two, I don't really care. He was just talking about the sun being a possible cure to just wiping this so-called virus out of the way. Which I thought, you know, is interesting. He's been saying that, you know, during the hotter climates that this so-called virus would be wiped out. And you know, we live in a very mind-controlled society. You know, they just came out with a film called what is it, Out of the Shadows, speaking about mind control in the media. So I wouldn't put it past during a so-called pandemic that they're also trying to implement other things or convey other things to the masses of the media. And I thought, you know, coronavirus is Latin. They hit people with the Latin spells. You know, it came out of Wuhan, China. When it tapped down into America, became Corvid, that Corvid-19, and it hit strong after Kobe died, which was crazy. Which they buried him at Corona del Mar, Sea Crown. What else tying to the crown? Okay, Brexit. So what Brexit is the British exit from the European Union. I have any articles here. Yeah, so the Brexit happened in January. And, you know, I presume that when you leave a union, you're sort of leaving like a group power structure. So these cats, Britain, they left the European Union in January, and at the same time, what is it? Trump, you get Meghan Markle and her husband Harry of the so-called royal family with Queen Elizabeth in them. You know, that whole group. So you get these folks, right, who come back into LA And when they come into LA, they have given up their so-called royalty. I'm like, that's interesting. And this is around so-called Corona time. Hasn't quite so-called hit the United States yet. So yeah, you get Meghan Markle and Harry coming into the United States, and they went to Canada, and then they went to LA. So you have these so-called non-royals, because they gave up their title allegedly, now in California. March, so-called Corona hits heavy. Stuff starts to shut down. Again, Corona, is dealing with the sun, is also dealing with the crown. So you got so-called crown figures or formal crown figures that come over to LA, come into California. Then you have a boat called the Grand Princess that comes into the Bay Area with people that have the so-called Corona. And I'm like, that's interesting. Talking about the synchronicities of this crown royal presence that's happening. And it seems like a lot of this royal energy is coming into the Bay, it's coming into LA. We could go back to Black Panther, where that movie, dealing with Wakanda and Wakanda's technology, the movie started in Oakland and it ended in Oakland with the king. Well, I was a little bit biased about that movie. I wanted N'Jaka to win, but it still ended with a king in Oakland, still dealing with royalty. So now that I'm looking more into this, it's a lot of royal energy, and tying that to what else? Oh yeah, there was also the Diamond Princess that was quarantined outside of Japan for a month. That was interesting, but still dealing with that princess energy. Oh, and Tom Hanks, that's the one I forgot. So Tom Hanks, it was March 11th. He ends up getting coronavirus, and he was on a trip in Australia, and he caught the coronavirus while also having his typewriter, which is named Corona, which is crazy. But he caught coronavirus in Queensland. So again, with that royal energy, it's like every time we see Corona, there's also some royal energy or royal thing or royal title or something behind the energy. What do you think about that?
When you spoke on the royal family coming to California, I thought of royalty as in royal blue or purple, and California also being the golden state, going back into your purple and gold theme.
Mm.
And as far as the crown is concerned, I also thought of, I wanted to ask you, could LeBron James have something to do with all this, being that the crown in essence was passed from Kobe to James?
Yeah, right before he passed, that's when LeBron had passed up Kobe in a few things, and I believe with Kobe's colors, and King James, people refer to him as King James, so I would say there's probably some synchronicities in that as well thrown in there.
Then that also goes into like the Hebrew Israelite movement is real big, and like James is kind of like a biblical name, so is going into that as well. As right now, like I believe it was either last year or 2019, the Hebrew Israelites were considered a black terrorist group, which in essence is America putting respect on their name. I mean, if you're a black vigilant group, you would want to kind of be considered that way.
Yeah, it acknowledges them in some way. Like we see you. Hello? I think you're muted. Oh, you back?
Yeah. Did you ask me a question?
Where did I leave off? Wait, we were talking about LeBron James. What was after that?
And then I was talking about how the Israelites.
Yeah, how they
When
ended
we
up
talk about King James, you know, the so-called author of the Bible. Then you got the Israelites, and it's almost like all those things kind of happen within the same year. The Hebrew Israelites become a terrorist group, which means that they're finally recognized by the government. I believe in that same year, LeBron is now with the Lakers, and then Kobe passes the crown to LeBron. So we got King James, knighted on the court, and then we have the Hebrew Israelites, who have some, who are supposed to be biblical characters, or we'll just say, of the biblical lineage. That's a better way to phrase that.
Okay.
Now rising to power, and a lot of them wear either gold, purple, or purple and gold.
Yeah, like these cats right here.
Yeah.
And even in the Black Joy Parade, I saw a whole group of Black Israelites wearing the gold and the purple.
Yeah. And I've started seeing, I think the movie was called 9 or 39 or something of that nature. And the beginning of the movie starts off with Hebrew Israelites on the corner, and the whole movie was, I think it was dealing with body trade or something like that. So it had nothing to really do with the Hebrew Israelites. They used them as B-roll. But I found that fascinating because I don't really recall seeing too much Hebrew Israelite imagery in movies in past history. And so it seems like that became a relevant movement. And then all of a sudden you have this crown, and then goes into that whole idea of the 400 years. And I don't know, I'm starting to feel kind of like the media is playing into that narrative. And I don't really see what's the vantage point for that. The only thing that I could think of is that they're trying to boost our heads up so that we start attacking, start attacking the citizens of America, our American establishments, so that they can, film us and have us appear to be the first ones on attack. So then, if assuming that we didn't win, or the so-called blacks who are attacking didn't win, then whatever is done to them will be justified as far as how we deal in our public relations. Because, even though America had its history between the whites and the blacks, something happened, and where the powers that be don't want to seem vile. I don't know why. I guess because it's just a big public relations thing and an image thing that they want to have. They get more money out of that. And so there's just things that won't happen right now simply because it's not ethical in terms of a worldview. But as far as the morale of the powers that be, I don't know how deep that goes.
Okay. Let me get on this. Let me stop the screen share right quick. Let me get on this Facebook. I had shared a it was an article in what is this? Washington Times. Here it is. So some people are upset by this. It's an article in the Washington Times posted. When was this posted? Tuesday. Today. It was posted today. And this is some of the stuff these media websites are posting. So you have, what's the title of this? The title is COVID-19 Turning Out to Be Huge Hoax Perpetuated by Media. Washington Post posted that today. Mind you, President Trump said this a while back. Weird. So let me actually read this off. When the postmortem is done on the media's coverage of COVID-19, and it will be clear that the virus was no Black Plague. It's not even the flu on a bad year. SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19. That's interesting. The SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19. So something else causes the COVID. Has killed 56,749 Americans as of Tuesday. That's not good. But it's not as bad as 2017 and 2018 flu season when 80,000 plus perished. And it's a long cry from what all the experts were warning about just a few weeks ago. First, they predicted 1.7 million Americans dead. Well, that's more of a projection than a prediction, I would say. Then they redid the models. This time, apparently entering a few more facts. It said 100,000 to 240,000 dead. Okay, that's not quite 50,000 people. Now, a major model relied on by the White House Coronavirus Task Force predicts about 70,000 dead by the end of August. Okay, 70,000. Rather no people dead, but 70,000. And for what? And for that, we shut down the U.S. economy. Okay, let's read on. As the coronavirus swept across China, then Europe, then everywhere, the U.S. media breathlessly reported every terrifying number, almost gleefully. Their ratings soared, of course, as they scared the hell out of every American, many of whom have stayed home for the last 40 days. At 40 days and 40 nights, emerging only to buy toilet paper and even the clad in masks and tiptoeing in fear. Yes, they are tiptoeing in fear. No, I'm not proud of that. But here are some facts. Okay. What's the read more looking like? Fatality rate. Okay. Let's read this. A recent Stanford University antibody study estimated the fatality rate from the virus is likely 0.1% to 0.2%. The World Health Organization, also known as the WHO, had estimated that the death rate was 20 to 30 times higher and called for isolation policies. On which version do you think the media focused? Okay. In New York City, the U.S. epicenter of the pandemic, the death rate for people 18 to 45 years old is 0.01% or 10 per 100,000 in the population. People age 75 and older, though, have a death rate 80 times that. People age 75 and older, though, have a death rate 80 times that. For children under 18, the rate of death is 0 per 100,000. That's 0. They emphasize that that was 0. Health and age. More than half of the COVID deaths in Europe occurring in long-term care or nursing home facilities. At least one-fifth of the deaths recorded in the U.S. so far have occurred there. Nearly all patients hospitalized for the coronavirus in New York City had underlying health conditions, according to recent studies. Let me take a break for that. So they've been saying a lot of COVID deaths. You know, even if you have other ailments, they're just counting it as a COVID death. Somebody could have had the flu, and then they could have counted it as a COVID death. That's foul. But let me continue. Health records from 5,700 patients hospitalized within the Northwell Health System, which housed the most patients in the country throughout the pandemic, showed that 94% of patients had more than one disease had more than one disease other than COVID-19. According to the Journal of the American Medical Association, Fox News reported. The study found 42% of the patients were overweight and 53% had hypertension, and the others suffered from a variety of ailments, far more widespread. Millions and millions of Americans have already been infected with the virus, even though the U.S. media continues to report the low numbers provided by Johns Hopkins, which says that 998,000 Americans have contracted the virus as of Tuesday. An antibody study was conducted last week in New York City and found that 1 in 5, 21.2% of the residents have already been infected with the coronavirus. There are 8.5 million people in New York City, so that would mean 1.8 million New Yorkers have had the virus. At the time of the study, there were 16,249 deaths in the city attributed to COVID-19, which means the death rate in the city was 0.89% at the time, far lower than reports in the U.S. media. Results of antibody survey last week in Los Angeles found as many as 442,000 Los Angeles County residents might have already been infected with the coronavirus by April, a number far higher than the 8,000 cases confirmed at the time. The survey suggests that the death rate from the virus could be as low as 0.18 of COVID-19 patients, which means the actual death rate in the city is far lower than reported. Wait, how much more do we have to go? Not much. Okay. The Daily Mail reported Monday that coronavirus may kill 70 times fewer patients than official UK death figures studies have shown. Let me repeat that. The Daily Mail reported Monday that coronavirus may kill 70 times fewer patients than official UK death figures suggest, studies have shown. The Mail said a similar fatality rate, 0.19%, was found in a study of residents in Helsinki, Finland. A study, this one by Dr. Justin Silverman, estimates that there were 8.7 million coronavirus infections in the U.S. between March 8 and March 28th. As of April 17th, 10% of Americans have been affected, which is roughly 33 million Americans. The media has been hyping COVID-19 since day one. I repeat. The media has been hyping COVID-19 since day one, alarming Americans to the point where they voluntarily went along with the shutting down of the entire economy, a mistake that will likely reverberate for a decade or more. Even as U.S. states begin to reopen based on the data, which shows a far lower fatality rate than the reported and a much wider spread of the virus, the media continue to report on what they deem frightening numbers over the deadly virus. They aren't, and it isn't. COVID is a bad flu at worst, and the media should be held accountable for telling us otherwise before they do the facts. Okay, Joseph Curl for Washington Times. What do you think about that, bro?
Man, I I think that this whole thing, I mean, I felt like it was a farce. I really did. And I don't know much about viruses, but I was kind of questioning: is the COVID-19 artwork the actual depiction of the virus itself? Um, and and this is just a question to the science public out there.
Hmm.
When you have a multiple strain virus, is it one uh, cohesive viral unit, or are there several components, separate in one area? So for example, if you have a virus from a swine that can be differentiated, a bat that can be differentiated, a monkey, both have different viruses, but they eat on one thing, and so now this thing has the combination of the viruses. Would it be one cohesive unit under the microscope, or would it be the three different viruses just occupying one space? So that's just my question to the general public. And as far as uh, the numbers are concerned, I was talking to my father about this, and he said, "Well, how do you account for the deaths?" And I hypothesized that the city is always on fire. That's why you hear the fire trucks all the time. There's gas lines under everyone's house, water lines under everyone's house. And that's just a room for disaster. Does the city tell you about every fire that takes place? No. Does the city tell you how many people actually die from common colds, flu, pneumonia? Do they publicize this? No. And so the corona thing automatically set up a red flag because I knew that they were promoting a virus. And why would you promote a virus? Because you want people to believe in it so that it has more power. They want people to give their.
You muted, bro.
Now, when we think about this virus, we can think in terms of the flu kills 20,000 to 60,000 people in a year. Um, and a lot of people don't even know that. It's not hidden information, it's just things that we don't think to look up. So if we have 20 to 60,000 people dying of the flu every year, how hard would it be for me to just say they died from the corona? Then we have so many people that die from a common cold, so many people that die from various other diseases every year. So if we just put one disease on that, the numbers on the death toll on that disease will be extremely high. The city, the state, the country needs for you to feel safe so that you promote this country by living in it, so that you remain a patron of the society that you live in, so that it can survive. And it needs for you to feel safe. If it's wanting you to feel, if they're warning you about a virus, either the outbreak is so serious that they cannot contain it, and you would probably see people sick everywhere, dying, like right up before your face. Like it would be people just laying out in the street, and they wouldn't even have people to pick them up. That's when the news would tell you something like that. I don't really know why they're pushing this. I think this was a this was a chess move to see how much power the New World Order has, and we'll just call it that. And when I say the New World Order, I mean the connected government bodies of the world, the 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 Union of the Nations,
Mm.
and they want to put out something and see how many people they could get to go along with it, and they succeeded. So that's what I think about this Corona COVID-19.
Mm. Okay, I could definitely see that. Um, Actually, I have a question. Would you like to talk about like when the Corvid hit on the news? Uh, like your interactions with your elder?
Yeah, man. I mean, one time in particular, um, an elder in my family was watching the news and kind of gearing up for this virus. You know, kind of becoming a hypochondriac, if you will, um, and making themselves sick by way of using too much bleach and pine sol, and that using it to that degree will react with asthma, allergens. This is also during allergy season, and she had completely convinced herself that she was sick. She wouldn't say it out loud, but I know that she thought she had the COVID-19. And as she was watching the news, she began to get sicker and sicker and to worry more and more. And it almost seemed like she was sabotaging her own self. She started clearing her throat too much and making sounds that I never heard her make before. Um, and was just in that stupor. And I had to really uh, just talk to her, not telling her that what she's going through is not real, but just hearing her out and letting her know that like you might have it. There is that possibility. I can't say what you do and don't have, but the chances are if you go to the hospital, you will get it. And if you can't make yourself get better within a certain amount of time, you're gonna have to go there, and you're gonna have to really take that risk. And if that's what you want to do, I'm perfectly in support of that. But I think it would be better for you to eat some lemon, drink some water, drink some of this olive oil, and try to clear your system up. And so that's what happened. And she's cool now. So I think that a lot of it is a mental strain. And a lot of people will get sickened from the coronavirus placebo effect. Placebo effect.
Hmm. Okay, that I like that you said it was a placebo effect. In fact, I think Las Vegas, the mayor of Las Vegas, was thinking about opening up Las Vegas, and then she had mentioned that her doing test runs for the city to see how it works, and you know, seeing what happens with like uh, with that placebo effect in sort of reverse. Uh, some people they make themselves sick with their minds. Others make themselves healthy with their minds. And even because I thought about this, like if you have a whole world quarantined in the house watching television, and a good chunk of them can be afraid easily, especially when it feels like a national emergency. Um, that it's like people across the planet is syncing up their fears and probably collectively making themselves sicker. not just by not so-called social distancing, but just by uh, being in that repetition of trauma that people see throughout social media, which I see people commenting on these different articles. It's like a lot of them are scared. Now, some people think this is a big ass psyops, and what a psyops is a psychological operation. Which shit, that article damn near just said that. Damn near said that the COVID was a so-called hoax or being projected more than what it should have been. Um, which is,
Could,
huh?
could this be the first worldwide hoax?
It could be. It's so funny. Somebody asked, like, why would the world put us through a hoax? And why would some people was like, why would the leaders do that? Like, shit, they might have a one world agenda too. Shit, they're the leaders of all these countries. You never know. Why would they want to do something like this? Again, I'll have to go back to how we started with the crown. A lot of changes has happened, within Europe, within Asia, within the United States. It seems like even us over here, we're linking up with Canada and Mexico. Uh, the the British Crown has left their unions. I feel like a lot of things is happening, and even I'm hearing that even human trafficking is the so-called coronavirus, or whether real, staged, or whatever, it has been used to also help stop human trafficking rings. And I would like to see how true that is, after everything, or after the lights turn back on within these cities.
And
Uh,
I was thinking to myself yesterday, and I said, let me play devil's advocate, and let's think of the government as being a good entity.
okay.
That's for the good of all people, and it's for the objective good of all people. So it's not a black or white thing, or Asian, yellow or purple thing, right? So what if the government and Trump know that there's a lot of, okay, we might look at the government and the powers that be as like archons, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what if these people know that, okay, we might be archons, but you have lower level archons that you call friends, or people that you beef with, that are drawing off your energy too. So now there's a lot of people that rely on your day-to-day energy that you may not even know of. You might not even think of yourself as giving them anything.
Hmm.
So instead of us going out here to kill some people, let's trim the fat simply by allowing those people who work all the time to sit at home. And you can rest. And all these people that you don't even know rely on you are not going to see you, and they're going to die off. And when you come back out, we're going to give some of you people a break, basically, that you could never get. Like, there's never a time where, let's say if you got 100 homies, and let's say out of 100 homies, like, if we split y'all all up in groups of 5, let's say y'all have 20 different jobs. There's probably, and y'all work for 20 different corporations, split up in groups of 5. There's probably a rare time that all 20 corporations will be shut down where you guys can all kick it. Those are like holidays, and you only get so many of those. And on the holidays, if you have a family and friends and all that, you're bombarded trying to see everyone. So it's almost like you're working again just to kick it. So how about this? We give everyone a break, and you're only going to be around the people you want to be around during this time off, or the people that you can be around. And all these other people that have been sucking on you guys' energy, are gonna just die off,
Mm.
and it's gonna allow those people who work hard all the time to have this break, and for those people who just thrive on you and need you to be there all the time, they're gonna fall by the wayside. And when you return, you'll have less of a burden on you because you'll have this break that you got, well deserved. Um, you'll have these people that were surviving on you. They're gone and they're gone. They don't have anything, and not only that, we're gonna give you 5G, and on top of that, we're getting rid of some of these you know let's say white pizza gate pizza lovers. I'm gonna say that about that. Um, so that's what I've been thinking about. I mean, how does that sound?
Man,
Just thinking, playing devil's advocate. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't even call it playing devil's advocate. I'll even say like, that's another layer, and that could be a layer to what's happening, because like um a lot of people hate the president. And in fact, it's so funny. Like every president gets some form of hate. This president just gets hate. He gets hate from all sides. Um, and it's so funny. Even if he did something good, he's still going to receive hate from people that want to direct their hate. I think people. We were having a discussion about. Yeah, before he was running for president, it seemed like everybody loved Trump, and when he started to run, that's when all this propaganda was coming out, all of it, and not just for Trump, for a lot of these politicians, a lot of WikiLeaks that came out for like Hillary and her emails and all type of stuff, and it's been an interesting, it's been an interesting few years, bro.
And
Uh,
I'm gonna give you this analogy, man. We might like watching The Mac. That was a movie about a pimp,
uh-huh.
but we don't want that type of character with our sister, our daughter, or our mother.
Mm-hmm.
So we might like Trump, but that doesn't mean we want him to be the president. I mean, we might love you, man, but I don't want you to be over the things I need to survive.
Exactly. He's a businessman.
Like,
So, like,
nah, man.
that's all
So
I expect from Cuz. That's it.
that's because it's like I like a lot of people, but I like them because they have a role in life that they found and they do a good job at it. I may not like you switching that role and going into another powerful role that now puts me at your jeopardy. So, that's the reality of why people may not rock with Trump now. Like, yeah, you were my friend, but now that you got this power and you got this say these same things that you were saying that, might affect a few tenants that are trying to get into your establishment, might only affect, a few people trying to get into your yacht club. Now is semi affecting the world. Um, I can't tolerate you anymore. And see, one thing we have to understand is when you standing on the corner and you're shooting the shit with the homies and you running the 12s on them, talking about their haircut and all that stuff. When you're broke, it's funny. When you're rich, it's an insult.
Mm.
You being the same person in the same situation changes when your situation changes. And a lot of people forget that. It's like, yeah, you have to keep it real to who you are, but at the same time, you got to be also aware that with power comes responsibility, and with power comes perspective and how people perceive you. And so when your perception changes, as far as your lifestyle changes, the very same thing you always said now becomes offensive. And a good example of this is, let's just say, people of different nations who live in black neighborhoods and can say nigga. That's cool amongst the people in that neighborhood. But when you're on a worldwide platform, that's not cool with the world.
Mm.
You know what I mean? There's a guy that looked like you who said that in someone else's neighborhood who got the taste slapped out their mouth, the pink slapped off their tongue, man. And so you on a worldwide platform saying that, it's like everybody's not with that, you know? So yeah, I mean, we just have to be aware of the role we play and how we have to move. And so I really do think with power should come a great change. And people switching it up to a degree makes sense when your lifestyle does change. It makes a lot of sense.
Hmm. Yeah, that does make sense. You know, when you do accumulate power, you know, lifestyle would definitely change. You know, especially if you upgrade into the role.
Hmm.
Now, what would you do? Now, what you do with it? Hopefully, I would hope that you take the righteous path while you're in power. Hopefully,
Hmm.
get the right advisors behind you to help you steer the rest of the world or the rest of the people that are following you uh, the best way possible. Uh, that's what I would. That's what I would aim for, like any leader. You know. You know. But I know I don't personally have all the answers. You know. That's why I have friends who have other perspectives that can help build onto the soup, you know. So it's like, hey, I got some potatoes, you might got some carrots, other homie got some bell peppers, we about to cook. Um, make some dope soup. Talk about the recipe. Shit. So hopefully these leaders can make some pretty dope soup that everybody can eat from.
Yeah, man. I like the idea of this idea of this crown. And so, in essence, what does this crown overall represents to you? Like when we look at the symbology of the crown and all the examples you gave, you know, and using the different reference points, what is it all? What is the summum bonum, so to say?
Oh snap! So I'm glad you said that, but before we get there, I'm looking at the solar eclipse and it says the next date is June 20, 2020. That's coming up, bro. After May. Was it? Is it made in June?
Yep.
Literally, bro, the corona's literally leading up to that solar eclipse.
Wow.
That's crazy, bro. That we just found this out. Just well, I just seen this just now.
He was also saying how that goes into Saturn, and then how Thanos goes into Saturn.
Oh yeah, because Thanos, he was born on the moon Titan, and Titan is a moon that rotates around Saturn. Um, if you were to go into the MCU, uh, the in Avengers Infinity Wars, the first stone he had was a power stone. It was purple. You know, purple deals with. Would that be the third eye or the crown? I think.
Let's look it up to make sure.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, third eye color. So purple, and then let's look up crown chakra color. Crown chakra color. So this is more of that chart. So indigo, purple. So yeah, this purple that's the crown chakra. third eye. So this is the color was Thanos was wearing, along with the solar plexus, that yellow, that gold. He himself was purple. Uh, oh yeah, so this would be the first stone that he had, and it's so funny that in the scene where he was fighting Thor and was about to kill him, he pointed the Power Stone, this purple crown thing, at Thor's crown. I thought that was interesting. I had to take real mental note about that. And the second stone he got was this the cube, the cosmic cube. Let me show you the cosmic cube. Cosmic cube. This right here, also known as the Tesseract, also known as the Space Stone that is within it, allows you to move to and fro. So he gets the cosmic cube. You know, cube energy that goes into Saturn's cube. Saturn's cube. Yeah, also known as Metatron. They say they have this cube at the pole of Saturn, and a lot of occultists or symbolic things on Earth represent, you know, an ode to Saturn. This right here in the middle is called the Kaaba, and I remember looking into the Kaaba, this square black like structure. Well, it's cloth and black actually. They pray in layers in rings, and I thought that was interesting. I'm like, okay, this is somewhat just like the pole of Saturn with the rings around that square. People literally like praying around this Kaaba, like like I'll just say they have similarities, you know, very Saturn-esque similarities. So Thanos gets, you know, the cosmic cube. That was the first stone he receives in that scene in Infinity Wars. Not to mention he's a Titan from a moon surrounding Saturn. He also gets the uh, the time stone towards the end, which, you know, that's when he makes his snap. And they say, you know, Saturn also deals with time and governing time. You know, that's where Father Time comes from, and Kronos and all them. You have anything to add to that?
Um, uh, well, also I wanted to relate that to Kobe. How many rings did Kobe have?
He had five.
5 rings. And then, I mean, I bet we probably did he get rings in college and all that?
Let's check.
Probably
Did
so.
he go to college? I think he came straight out from high school.
Yeah, high school. So the only other ring he probably would have is as a high school ring if he won any championships in high school.
Okay. Kobe Bryant, high school.
Yeah, 'cause I'm thinking like, what if he has the because Thanos has the 6 rings, right?
He has the six stones,
Oh, okay.
and his number is 33. That was his number in high school. Uh, so let me pull this up.
Wow.
Kobe. See his name in the English ordinal in gematria comes out to 33. So he wore
Hmm.
33, and his name Kobe comes out to 33.
Got you.
So, you know, he was really aligned with that energy. Um, as far as him winning championships, I'm pretty sure in his senior year of high school, Bryant led the Aces to their first state championship in 53 years. Okay.
He won a championship?
That's what it says. In his senior year of high school. Wait, let me get the whole.
Yeah, man. So I had a feeling he had one other ring. So that's 6 rings, man. I'm counting them all.
Okay.
I'm counting them all, bro. I'm counting them all. So that's
Not,
6 rings, man.
not to mention his number is 24. 2 plus 4 is
Yeah,
6.
man.
And
That's the 6 ring, man. That's the
he's
6 ring.
also 6 feet by 6 inches.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
if his name comes out, if Kobe's name is 33, 3 plus 3 is 6.
Yeah, man.
Bruh.
Golly. It says in the Vedas that all great people are born under auspicious stars.
hmm
Yeah.
Shit.
Then when I think about Kobe, when he got into when the world knew him, he was approximately 19 years old. And then COVID translating to Kobe, and it makes his entry at COVID or Kobe 19.
hmm
And then I think about that Thanos snap, and then I think about the Kobe snap, man. Not that he's into killing anyone or violence, just thinking symbolically, and people using another person as a symbol to push their agenda. And these things affect the subconscious, even though the average person is not connecting a Kobe with a COVID.
hmm
Now that the translation said that they're the same thing, or similar words, let's just say that. Um, the subconscious mind doesn't hear anything different, and it's thinking the crown, it's thinking purple and gold, it's seeing 6 rings, it's seeing these things in Marvel, it's seeing all of this stuff. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Because these are symbols that are skimming across people's minds. And I'll say, as some folks, well, as we know, like how our subconscious minds are programmed with symbols, uh, letters, numbers, colors, stuff like that, uh, repetitions, trauma. People cried with Kobe, bro. People cried. Uh, it's all that emotion. It was just generated, and a lot of people just throwing up that purple and gold all over. And then shortly after that, Corona hits. And if I had to give Corona a color, if we thinking like crown, we thinking like solar eclipse. I'm thinking that golden rim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He shit right after Kobe died, bro. The NBA shut down.
Yep. That's crazy, bro.
He also represents the serpent too. I'll even say
Mm-hmm.
dual serpent because his daughter went with him, and she was fashioned after him.
Yep.
That's the dual serpent, both the masculine and feminine.
I mean, that snake is getting its popularity. Uh, I'm seeing it surface a lot. You got Gunna and that whole slime movement with Young Thug and Little Got It, and they whole slime and snake theme imagery. And then we have this Black Mamba. What's some more snakes that people are
Um,
utilizing in pop culture?
Hermes. Hermes. Uh, he holds this god. Yeah, this guy, Hermes.
Mhm.
He carries that staff with the dual serpent,
Mhm.
the staff of Hermes. Let's see. Does Mercury have the same thing? Mercury god. Huh. Yeah, it seems like they're similar. What's the symbol known as? Okay, the Caduceus. Am I saying that right? Let's see. Herald's wand, the staff carried by Hermes in Greek mythology. Hermes Trismegistus in Greco-Egyptian mythology. The same staff was also borne by heralds in general. For example, by Iris, Messenger. Uh, yeah. And some say the staff right here represents the spine, and those serpents represents the energy going up to the spine, up to the crown as a symbol. So yeah, that's another uh, symbology. Snakes on a plane. You know, that's literally a whole nother way to explain this right here. You know, the rising of the Kundalini or the rising of that serpent energy.
Man, that serpent is popping right now.
Hmm. What else goes into the serpent? I wonder what movies came out that dealt with the serpent recently.
Yeah, my mind is drawing a complete blank right now.
Yeah, I
I
can't
feel like
even.
there's more symbology, but I just can't make the connections right now.
Yeah, I know they were. I know Panic and Eileen were talking about the star Beetlejuice
Okay,
or Beetlegeese.
but Beetlegeese, yeah.
Yeah, and so I looked it up, and they were talking about how last year it dimmed like 2/3. So Beetlegeese news, and I'm also gonna look up Beetlejuice the movie because in the movie they mentioned Beetlejuice being Beetlegeese or reference thereof,
Hmm.
and uh,
Does it have something to do with like a death realm?
yeah, and being in the house, trapped in the house.
So Beetlegeese, not the Beetlejuice movie, but the actual Beetlegeese realm or whatever it is dealing in death.
Yeah, or the underworld. I need to rewatch that movie.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about
Oh,
the what is
you're
the
talking about the
Beetlegeese
actual
thing?
star.
Yeah, is that dealing in death? That's what I'm asking.
Um, I'm not sure, but that is dealing with Orion. I need to do more research on Orion, but it deals with the Orion constellation. It is the star, the shoulder of Orion. Let me
Now, is Orion have anything to do with Osiris at all?
Orion, Osiris connection. Let's see.
'Cause that would be the death right there.
Okay,
If there is.
they associate the stars of Orion with Osiris, the sun
Okay,
god,
boom.
rebirth, and afterlife. Okay,
Okay, so
and one of
so
the
we're
most
so,
important gods of.
so we're dealing with the death realm because I'm like, if Beetlejuice and Beetlegeese sound like the same thing. So
Mhm.
if the movie is relating to this constellation, then this constellation has to be some form of a death dealer, death realm, or something of that nature.
And they say this star is dying. It's a star. It's a dying star. So we are
Hmm.
dealing with some form of death, as far as an actual star about to die.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now I'm seeing something. All right. So what is the relevance of this whole Betelgeuse thing and someone writing on it recently? How does it?
So
How can we relate to it in recent times?
so in recent times, they were saying in January of 2019 to December of 2019, the star has dimmed 2/3 of its light,
Wow.
and and if it dimmed that much within that amount of time, I would it would appear that that star might be exploding sometime soon, or at least so it might be projected. But the
Mm,
dimming of the red supergiant star Betelgeuse has been making headlines for months. Okay, this was going on for months.
mm.
Why was it dimming? Was it going to go supernova? Nova? Well, yes, one day it will for sure, but not for now. It seems, in fact, after 6 months in flux, it had dimmed to less than 40% of its average luminosity by February 2020. It now appears to have returned pretty much to normal. Huh. Okay, now that.
So we're dealing with a dying star. Think about that. So we're talking about Corona. We're talking
Mhm.
about people passing away, passing the crown around. And we're talking about the dying star, the dying constellation, the light that it has dimmed itself 40%, or that has been dimmed 40%. So this
It,
must have something. You know, if we're gonna just think occultically that everything is everything, then that's what we're dealing with in this time is the dying stars. This would kind of explain, the house arrest situation that they allege house arrest of the celebrities.
mm,
This
and
would
there's talk.
explain the art rendered for the corona as it looks like an exploding star. And is this Betelgeuse thing red?
Yes.
Though that's the color of the corona basically. Looks kind of like it.
Also on the chart, would it be the root?
Yeah, red and orange. Pull up the corona,
Let me see. Which one was the
La Corona.
corona? You're talking about the eclipse
No, the virus.
or the coronavirus? It's funny. Right before everything shut down, I did a 3D design of a virus, bro. Man, I wish I had the picture. It was a good one too. Next time,
Next time.
coronavirus picture.
What's the name of your show?
Uh, that's a good question.
You said it on the last show. I just don't remember.
Um, this is a distraction. We're gonna talk about synchronicities. This is like 2020
Okay.
synchronicities part two. Um, yeah, this is a distraction.
So this virus can be any color. The colors are just art, right?
Yeah.
The colors don't necessarily represent anything. I mean, it looks like an exploded star to me, but I guess it depends on how you render it and the colors. Because the green one doesn't look like an exploded star.
Well, if this is the main one that they're using, it's red and gray with a little bit of orange.
Yeah.
Or let's use the Washington Post since it's mainstream. So those triangles. Those look like red triangles.
Yeah, it does.
On like a grayish white surface, little stars, little white stars, and little orange pecks.
Hmm.
There's yeah. So that's an interesting, you know, arraignment. You know, it's red. It has the red in it. Um, and hold on, let's go back to that chart. So this root chakra, you know, it has a triangle in it, a little upside down triangle.
If you were to place gray somewhere, where would you place gray at? Even though there's not a gray color here on the chakra chart.
Gray, I had to place it. Gray matter. I really have to place it in between black and white. So it'd be like some type of neutral color.
What's a neutral color on this chart?
On this chart,
Yeah, because I'm trying to relate gray to the chakra chart.
Oh, Well, let's see if we can type this into Google because I don't really see gray as something on the chakra chart. But
I want to say blue. Blue is the closest color that I could I could make a gray look almost like a cool blue, but I can't see myself making a gray using any other color. So I would put it in that blue arena. And I would say it's dealing with the throat. Oh man, and Corona is dealing with the throat.
mm-hmm.
And they draw it gray. And so I'm just gonna we just off the cuff freestyling, occultically freestyling. So I'm just gonna everything is everything, all is all, everything is the mind.
Actually,
I'm
yeah,
gonna rock with that.
that should be the title of this particular show. Just throw that in there. The cultic freestyle.
Yeah.
It's part 2 of the first video. A cultic freestyle. Okay, the meaning of the color silver or gray. The goddess of the moon.
It's related to air. I guess you could say blue is water, but I would relate also blue with air too, because I think of the sky when I think of air.
Plus, water is in the air.
Yep.
It's hella in the
Say
air.
blue, man.
Air makes up most of the water. H2, no. Yeah. Oh, air is in water. So, okay. The key words: moon, female energy, goddess, patience, forbearance, preservance, insight, reflection, self-control, wisdom, responsibility, insight. Okay, silver, gray stones. Okay, too much gray can make us rigid, dull, melancholy, lonely, lifeless. Shit. It's quarantine season, so if you lonely, I don't know what to tell you. A little too gray, we feel uncertainty. Okay, a lot of people do feel uncertain in these times. Neutral, between light and dark, feel that it's time to make choices. Okay, this is a good time to make some choices. Cancellation, stalemate, neutrality. Okay, hella shit has been canceled. A lot of stuff has come to a halt. Um, it's like the day the Earth still stood still. The most effective way to add the power of red or correct a balance in the first chakra is through adding neutral red crystals and gemstones to your everyday wardrobe. Well, I got a room.
That's what it looks like they did when they drew the corona.
Right? Where is that corona? Where'd it go? Where are you at, Corona? Where Beetlejuice.
This is exactly what it looks like.
Here it is. Just sprinkled the red right there.
It looked like they read that same thing. It was like, yo, we got this gray bass. What should we do?
Was
Let's
made by
add
the
little
artist.
red sparkles. Cause I mean, it looks like I like jewelry a lot, but what it looks like is it's like some like orangey red sapphire. Like if you put three round stones together to try to formulate like a triangle.
Mm.
I mean, it looks like a piece of like, art to me. You know, I don't know if this is actually what I would see in the telescope. Could be though. Could
See,
be.
I made something that looked like this. It's
Okay.
not. See, this was simple. This, yeah, they put some thought into that.
That's not as simple.
Well, it's if I'm isolating these triangles, that's a different layer. These
Mhm.
well, each color is a different layer too.
Mhm.
Uh, this this could be just one layer of color that you could apply to a shape.
Okay.
Yeah, and this feels like this would be separate shapes, separate layers.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say this one would be more sophisticated in this art than this one. So I would probably want to try to make an art piece that looked like that to challenge myself.
Yeah, I'm relating this gray color with blue,
Okay.
and blue is the throat chakra, and this stuff gets caught up in your respiratory tract,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the red and all that. That's the that's according to the chakra chart. You're dealing with the lower chakra energy, and so you know that's gonna take you out of this world. You know what I'm saying? Your lower chakra energy gets caught up in your throat, and all your energy in your body goes into trying to correct your throat issue. The rest of your body goes in the shop. You got the game. So yeah, that's how I see it. Just just as far as just observing it and going off the cuff with it. Um, yeah, that's what I see, man.
Mm. Okay. I just had a random but not random thought about the movie that came out last year called Us. It's like a play on US.
Yeah,
And that dealt with like doppelganger energy. Let me pull up the Us movie.
that movie was beautiful, man.
Yeah, it
Really
was like
beautiful.
well played out. I think huh. Scissors, gloves, also mask.
Mhm.
Got the red. You got that 9/11 right there.
Mhm.
Uh,
Hmm. Golly, really do.
and oh, so she got the left hand glove
Oh wow, Thanos glove.
without the stones.
Oh man,
You got the glove without the stones, bruh.
I never even really paid attention. That glove is kind of sick, you know. It almost looks like it has the holes to get the stones in it.
Definitely. No, the right hand path. She was on the right hand path, bro.
Oh my god, yo, this is crazy.
Oh, and
And
she's rocking the same colors as Iron Man.
it does look like 9/11 or 9 L's.
Coming soon.
9 L's are coming.
The 9 L's are coming soon.
Oh my god, yo. And that glove is supposed to be like a biker glove, but it looks really extreme. Like if you look in the wrist area, it looks like they did a lot of some type of Photoshop work to enhance the glove itself. It doesn't, I don't know. Looks extreme for just like a regular biker glove, and yeah, it looks like it looks like a Thanos glove that needs stones in it.
But let's actually look that up because I'm gonna relate it to Tony Stark, Iron Man, uh, glove. Was Iron Man glove? And Infinity. So there you go. Here he is, right before he dies. See, in his colors is the gold and the
hmm
red.
hmm
Not to mention these characters right here. See, Black Cuz has a bat.
hmm
His name was Abraham. He didn't speak.
Man, you know, what this movie reminded me of. I mean, I had to kind of switch the way I saw the movie because I was looking at it kind of from like a Hebrew Israelite perspective
Mm,
and looking at the people that were coming to take them. Okay, us is the U.S., so it's talking about us in America, even though they're using African people to play the role. They're using African people to play the role because the American black person, doesn't see themselves. They see an African person. Prior to that, they would see a white person or a light skinned person. They would replace their darker image for that. And today, replace their darker image for an even darker image. So they're all wanting to be African. So even the African is playing a role as you. And so it's these U.S. So us is the U.S. citizens, the black U.S. citizens, being taken over by black foreigners who don't have our interests in mind
her.
whatsoever.
You know what's so funny?
And go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I'm gonna let you continue. My bad.
Yeah, so I've starting to notice that a lot of the people that are against black reparations, the black people, they are actually not from here.
Mm.
Their family dwells in the Caribbeans, or they're African, and they're saying, oh, we're lazy, we're this, and we don't need reparations. Or I've even heard blacks spew or re-spew rhetoric from the Republican Party, such as none of the slaves or the people that were in slavery are here anymore. So why should you get the money? And in my opinion, that's no different than me saying, well, your forefathers aren't here. Why should you live in their property? Why don't you give that up to the public? You turn that into apartments or something and let even some of your people live in there instead of you just have it by yourself. It don't have to be other nations. We'll put your own nation in there. How about that? Um, so when I watched this movie in the beginning, that's what I saw. And what kind of threw me off was when they had put the other nations of people in the movie. So then I was kind of questioning, is it a black thing? But when it's a black thing, it's not always so obvious. Um, let's just say when we watch uh, comedic movies, so-called Egyptian or Hebrew movies, we find that all the characters are white, and so it kind of makes the movie diluted because it has no racial theme outside of identity. So I'm a white man identifying as an Egyptian, and you're a white man identifying as a Hebrew. But if we made the Hebrews Arab people and we made the Kemetic people half Arab and half African, and then pure African people, but more on the Sudanese side, that creates a whole different storyline. So when they started throwing the different nations in there, I wanted to say, oh, it's not about black people since they have the white people in there, but no, it is about black people. And they put the white people in there just to make it so that all the symbols and signs are not so blatant. You have to get this movie out, and but that's what it seemed like it was about to me. I mean, what do you think? I don't want to ramble too
Um, there was hella mention. What was that? A Bible quote that kept on coming in that movie.
much. I forgot.
It dealt
It
with.
was something about they shall come or something. Meek
Yeah, I
shall
think.
inherit, or which one? It was something like that.
Let's look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up, man.
Okay, us Bible quote quote. So Jeremiah 11. Is it Jeremiah 11? Yeah, it is Jeremiah 11. So what is Jeremiah 11:11? Okay, we'll start off with yeah, they kept on showing Jeremiah 11:11 all throughout the whole movie. The reinforcement on that 11:11 energy.
It says in plain English, the verse means y'all screwed.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, and I will not hearken unto them. Basically, I'm not hearing shit. Oh, you crying out to me? You forgot I was your father. uh, Let me actually look this verse up on a Bible website. Jeremiah. Okay. The broken covenant. We'll start from right there, from verse 10. They have returned to the sins of their forefathers, who refused to obey my words. They have followed other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken the covenant I made with their fathers. Therefore, this is what the Lord says: I am about to bring upon them a disaster that they cannot escape. They will cry out to me, but I will not listen to them. Verse 12. Then the cities of Judah and the residents of Jerusalem will go and cry out to the gods to which they have been burning incense, but these gods certainly will not save them in their time of disaster. You got that?
I got it. Now, how would we apply that to us, the movie?
Us, the movie. So, us, the sins of their father, the sins of their father. It's weird. So what happened in the movie? So these cats were experiments, yo. These cats that were underground, they were they were experiments, and they were tethered to these other beings for some reason.
I remember me and you had a conversation about this a long time ago, and we were talking about the fact that, or I don't even know if it's a fact, or just the idea that the soul can be cloned. But then I was under the idea that, well, if the soul can't be cloned, And how does a clone live? You know, assuming that human clones and things of that nature exist. And this idea of tethering made a lot of sense. You know, it would have to be connected almost parasitically to the original being, and it would kind of live off the residual effects of that being. So if you're walking, it's walking, but not really. You know, if you're talking, it's talking, but not really. It's like a bad signal.
Mm.
It's kind of like if you drop robots under 1G versus 5G, you know, versus 10G. You know, like just the movement and everything will be better. There'll be less glitches. And so I would look at it like the sins of the forefathers would have been creating clones. Because I'm, if we don't go by the movie so much, but just think in general,
Hmm.
we live in a world where there's a high population, overpopulation, you know, or at least that's the type of energy they're pushing, the powers that be. And if there's an overpopulation, then what would be your point of making human clones? I mean, it would make no sense outside of just the science, and you wouldn't need to make no more than, you know, a few until you say, okay, I perfected the formula. I don't need to make any more. We already have too many people. So it had to be some type of sinister plot in creating clones, and it would have to be based on control. I don't know why the powers that be don't just kill people by masses and say F what the United Nations think about us. You know, let's just destroy everybody. And you know, why is that not possible if the powers that be have, you know, that much power?
Mm.
And so it must have something to do with um, like the ecosystem. Like for example, if you destroy spiders, you'll have hella insects that would normally get caught up in webs now all over the place.
Mm.
And so if you destroy humans, there may be other things that humans kill and destroy, or that humans get consumed by, that would then have only you to come after. And so humans make up a cushion space from the powers that be and something else, which I'm not sure of what that something else is. Could be virus or something of that nature. Um, and so, being that there is a certain number of population needed to fulfill this role, whatever it might be, could just be labor, something of that nature. Um, then it would behoove the powers that be to make a version of you that is fully controlled and created by them.
Mm.
And as far as public relations are concerned, because you'll get more bees with honey than vinegar, none of these people actually died. So we could take out the whole public, the whole society, and replace them with our clones.
Mm.
Though I don't think that they figured out how to transfer the spirit into the tethered being. And I think that was the fault of the experiment. You know, I'm just imagining what the precursor of the movie could have been about when they were actually going through the clone making process.
Mm. All these cookie cutout clones holding hands. They're holding hands and it appears to be like they're unifying, but they're clones. They're cut out to be unified.
Hmm.
Because when they all come to the surface, they all holding hands and shit
Mm-hmm.
across the planet. All these clones
Hmm.
from underground.
Hmm. And I'm thinking that like, because in the beginning of the movie it was like all black people, so it made me think that these clones were just black, you know. And then when they started showing all the nations, I kind of felt like it still was a black thing, but then there was another part of me that felt like it's saying that it isn't just a black thing, that there's just certain groups of people that will do things to remain, but construct things to make you change,
Mm.
and the the ruling class would benefit from those changes. Yeah, it's like unity could only come from a tethered clone race.
Ooh, go into that.
Yeah, man, it's like, individuality. Whoever created that, if that was something created by a being, was very wise, because it was the one thing that allowed people to believe that they had some stake in controlling this world, and that they had a purpose. And the clones, their purpose was just to be. I mean, they're just tethered, so they don't have any individual beliefs, because they're a being that's tethered to another, and so there's no need for individuality. But then, when I think deep into that, I'm like, well, for people who believe God or believe in Krishna or Allah, you know, these people believe themselves to be tethered to a deity. And so in one sense, it was kind of showing me like who we are in our attempt to hold hands and be a one world. Then something tethered to us was holding hands, but they were in that, they had just got out of that space. You know, they were the crabs in the bucket. And so they were kind of pulling on each other to get out. So once they get out of that bucket, they were still holding on to each other. And, the holding on lasts for so long. But once they get their form of individuality, it's possible that they would have went through the same things everyday people went through: warfare, uh, scarcity, surplus, beauty, lust, all the things. But in order to achieve that world peace, or the only time that was seen, at least in that movie, was with those clones coming to take which wasn't theirs. And I think in the movie, the clone, if the clone killed the person, didn't the clone die?
No, no, not exactly. So, when the clone killed the person, right? I think with the white
Yeah.
family, when their clones killed them, the black people that killed their clones, or on the way to kill their clones, they killed the white clones
Uh,
in their house.
uh,
Eventually, so we had to take care of ourselves, and then we had to take care of, you know, the other doppelgangers, because they couldn't handle theirs.
so
There's
yo, so that's the only thing that I don't think really flowed with the movie, is that if they were tethered to the person, how can they live if that person dies? Or how would they have any sanity? It's kind of like, okay, the internet is a mechanism of its own, and it sends out a wavelength, and we tap into the wavelength to utilize that mechanism. But if that wavelength cuts, our connection to that mechanism is basically dead unless we can bring it back. Now we're talking about machinery. Now, if that machinery was organic in nature and it died, then there wouldn't be no way to bring it back outside of birthing another one. So how could you be tethered to something, kill it, and you still be alive, and you still have the same adequate knowledge that you began with prior to killing your clone or your original self, your host self?
Mm, that's
That
interesting.
might have been a flaw in the movie. What do you think about that?
Not too sure, cause it, cause it could be on some Highlander shit where the clone or the original just take each other out and sort of like gather the energy of that person or take their place. Well, that's what they were doing. They were literally going seeking out their doppelganger to take their place. Now since they have come to the surface, also they were wearing that red. They were showing these scenes of like bunnies that are white and that red. And so when I think of those colors, going back to the root chakra and the white, that encompasses all the colors. Um, you know, I looked at like the story of one trying to balance itself. For example, this kid, it seemed like the little boy in both of the masks, one in the werewolf mask and the checkered print, the black and white, and this other guy, he had on white and red. So it seems like they balanced out, and their symbol was fire.
Hmm.
They like to play with fire. And I think this kid got burned for fucking with fire. And yeah, they both wearing masks, and that mask concept and those glove concepts go into 2020. Shit, even the fact that it's two of them that goes into 2020 because it deals with duality. You get these scissors, right? Uh, you get these scissors, these scissors, which also is like a play on the rabbits, right? They're saying these rabbits are clones, and they do a lot of experiments on rabbits. And this movie came out in March, like right before spring, right before Easter, and all of that. And it's funny how they got these white rabbits, and you got this lady who was like the real doppelganger.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first one to make it to the surface.
And think about that. She was the first one to be amongst the tethered beings.
Hmm.
That's really, I mean, that's even more unique. Because think about that. She's the only one who even knows that this thing exists, and they utilized her brain to pull this whole coup off. It wouldn't have even been possible. Remember how they were moving, kind of like they were completely discombobulated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just bumping into shit, and
Yeah.
they couldn't speak no English or none of that. But in the movie, they had a way of communicating, whether it's like some type of click or yell.
Yeah. So it seems as though, like, I don't know, cause so but you see what I'm saying? Like, if they were tethered to those things and they were moving like that, and basically the only reason why they were able to even come out of those caves, and that's why in order for them to live, they had to kill everyone else, because there's no way that they would have been able to make it in society without somebody knowing, like, damn, there's something wrong with Jack.
Mm.
Like, he's just drooling. He stands in one place all day. You know, like, there's no sneaking them in. So it's like, I don't see how they, they had to come out and kill everyone. And then it kind of reminds me of the story of Esau, not from a biblical perspective, but just, as we just kind of say it in jargon today, that, oh, they came out of mountains. And when we talk about them, we're talking about a beast that made it with different nations and made a plethora of different types of people of all different types of colors, and came out to take over the entire world. And they started off as a tethered being, came and simplified everything, and then made the simplified thing the cool thing, made the debased thing the cool thing. And so think if you lived in a world that was taken over by tethered beings, and maybe your tethered being was locked down somewhere, so it didn't come and kill you, so it just let you live, or you learned how to pretend like you're a tethered being, and so you just lived amongst these things. Think of their governing and all that. Even think when some of them get advanced enough to make something that they call technology, what kind of stuff they would make, and you're just sheerly outnumbered. And then you have this smart, person that came out from the real world that's now ruling these tethered beings, you know, and it has all types of wit, because enough wit to control tethered beings, and enough wit to pull out a worldwide coup and have each person destroy their doppelganger, which means that they have been keeping some kind of tab on them to find them. They didn't just come out of a cave and just walk straight to their house without some form of information. So I don't know, like this. Now that we're talking about the movie, there's a lot of questions as to how this happened, and how does the tethered being, how is it affected by its real thing? Because they basically said that these entities were moving off the residual effects of the real person. So if you was having sex, it might take 5 minutes or so for the being to be doing something, but it can't be doing what you're doing because it's not in your time and place. So it might just be moving, making some weird noise and acting like it's feeling the resonance of your orgasm, but it's not actually doing any of that. So if this person was living off of your resonance, it basically is a resonance of you, then how would it live without you? You know,
Mm.
in theory.
Hmm. So, how would you relate this movie to what's happening now?
Man, well, what it is that we don't, we appreciate what we have, but we kind of don't. And so we have the crown, but we were born with the crown, so we take all these amenities for granted. And while we're taking these amenities for granted, through the confusion of faces, through the confusion of names, we've allowed others to come and replace us. And this to me has something to do with passing the crown. Like, think about it like this. You might, to the world, I'm not saying to you, but just to the world, they might put you in like a peasant class. They might put myself in a peasant class. But we're peasants in the ruling kingdom. So that means that when we travel the world, because that's not even real. In most worlds, people who are peasants don't travel. Just think about that. Like, if you really wanted to travel, bro, you could have been got your passport since you was 18 and just went anywhere. You could probably play some music and just stack up and just stay at the house or something, or just lay low somewhere and stack up and travel. Even if you didn't want to do anything, and if you wanted to get a basic job, you can make enough to do that. In Ghana, I think they said only 11% of the population has like a 9 to 5 type job, like we have out here. The rest of the people rely on their hustle. And for the 11%, there are many that are qualified, but because there are so many people, they do a raffle to get a job.
Mhm.
So, I mean, although we might be of a peasant class in Babylon, we're still living in Babylon. And so we have passed our crown to other nations because, and you hear us griping about it, and I'm sure other nations in America are doing the same thing we're doing. Because I was hearing people at the lake doing it, of other nations. But we'll say things like this, like, "Oh, it's so better in Africa. When we would just be running around in the wild, having our own land. We could do what we want to do. I hate this here. I don't even want to use this language. This ain't our language." So we basically saying, "I don't want my crown. I don't want my crown. I don't want my crown.
Yo, and now people saying I don't want the corona. That's
I don't want the
right.
corona. So I don't want the crown." So they're getting you to say it all the way around. They're getting you to say it all the way around. "I don't want the crown. I don't want the crown." So, okay, I'll take it. Because you have to realize these people move on metaphysics.
Mm-hmm.
This is a conversation that if they said, "Oh, we just had y'all say the corona so that y'all can say I don't want the crown, so that we could give it to these other nations who do want it." Because they're already here. That's why there's so many people here that's not from here that look like everyone here, to the point where they need to pull a damn glass globe around America, man. That's what they starting the spaceship troop for, man. They're gonna put some type of electromagnetic field around here, man. And especially expect some kind of field. This just popped in my head just now, man. Expect some kind of field around here if we don't get 5G.
Mm.
If China, Russia, or somebody else somehow gets the 5G network and we're buying phones from Prussia now or something like that, expect America to go to some extent to keep our knowledge and our information from getting to other people. And so this is all coming back down to that crown, man. This is all coming back down to that crown. So us is talking about the crown. All of us are part of the crown. What is the crown? That goes back to England. This is some Western world power shit right here. And regardless to how you got here, you have access to the crown. But you wanna sit here, gripe, moan about what was, about what we're taking from you now. But with all that we've taken and with all that you've been through, let a person like you go to Ghana. And I'm talking about like myself. I have a lot of skills and things of that nature, but out there you gotta hustle, man. You know what I mean? I don't know. I might still be a blessed person there and still be in the same place I would be here. I don't know. But I'm just saying out here, I've seen people who have, no type of wherewithal because they don't want to. Not that they're just stupid. They just don't want to. They like being stupid. And I've seen those type of people have thousands of dollars come into their hands, hundreds of dollars all the time. So that same person in one of these impoverished countries would do horrible. I saw a lot of people. Not, I mean, I'm a unique person, I think, but I'm just thinking if I think objectively, I'm just a nigga just like anybody else. So when I went to Ghana, there's a bunch of niggas that draw, can think about something and talk about it if you bring it up. And so in objectively speaking, you know, there may not be anything so special about me, outside of the fact that I was born in the States and that I'm willing. Just that. So we're passing that crown on, man.
Mm.
That's what us is about, man. And it's really that's why it showed us first as in black people, and then it showed us later as white people in other nations to show us as in the US. So everyone's passing their crown, but the first on the list is the so-called black man. You passing your crown away, man.
Mm. It's so funny to reinforce that crown energy. Black Panther that came out in 2018. This character right here, Injaka, he actually obtains the crown. And guess where this character is from? Oakland.
Oakland,
Oakland.
Oakland,
Not only
Oakland.
is he from Oakland, the guy who wrote Black Panther as far as the script or directed it is from Richmond / Oakland.
Okay.
Um, he comes into Wakanda. Wakanda is also a Native American spirit. It's a Native American spirit. So he goes into Wakanda, which they put in Africa for some reason. Bro gets the crown. Whoops. Black Panther's ass.
Mhm.
Rightfully so. And, towards the end, he did lose. He did lose. But, he got that crown. And that crown still traces back to Oakland, to the Bay Area. And, yeah, I'm not trying to give up that crown, bro. The energy heavy over here. Even though we lost to the Raptors last year, to a Canadian team, we lost to a Canadian team last year. And before that, we had like some championships, at least with Steph Curry before the Warriors moved away. Um, plus a lot of energy out the Bay is moving away. Warriors went to San Francisco, Raiders went to Las Vegas, um, which leaves the A's, the elephant in the room. Hmm.
Hey, I want to say, speaking on holding your crown, I want to say, how to hold your crown. You know what I'm saying? Like, and what is holding the crown? And I would say holding your crown is not giving your glory to somebody else. Even if you, let's just say if you black and you just so happen you don't know your heritage, but maybe you're 100% Nigerian and you find that out some kind of way. Through a spirit guide or through some ancestry or something, some source that you trust. Right? And maybe at that point in time, you might not really connect with American blacks. You might feel like, man, maybe I need to get to Nigeria. Well, until that time happens, you know what I mean? Hold on to what you've created here, as a so-called Nigerian American. Me, I believe myself to be an original Black Native American. You uh, I'm not claiming to be an Asiatic Native American. And what that means to me is that I have respect for every nation, and I have disrespect if that's what people are coming with me. And if I choose to go that route with the person. And when I see people and I hear their great stories, and they might try to include me in it. They might be like, "Yeah, this greatness is ours, brother, our African people, and we have this greatness." And I'll say, if the spirit so leads me to say so, I'll say thank you. But I don't, not sure that I'm African. But what I am sure of is that I'm from here. And when I say here, I don't necessarily even mean America. My people may have been here uh, before or maybe a little afterwards that the concept was created. but I believe much longer before. And so I hold on to that. And I don't need to, I can wear an African garb, and I'm not pretending that I'm African. I'm rocking an African garb no different than somebody wearing some Tommy Hilfiger with the American flag on it, or some polo with the U.S. polo on it. Just because you're wearing that don't make you American. People wear polo all over the world with the American flag on it, and they're just rocking that. So it's really just holding on to who you are. When you get into that arena and you start hearing people, crying over you, and they doing that fake stuff, man, where it's like, oh, I know what you've been through, man. It's hard being from slavery. I can't even relate to that though. If I keep it real, I'm from such and such a place. Yeah, in my mind, I just be like, bruh, stop fake crying and bragging, and what I am is potent if I make it potent. And if I, fall by the wayside and try to deal with you as you when I'm not you, I'ma lose. If I'm trying to take on what you are and what your makeup is. I'm me, and this is the crown right here, whatever it is. So I just wanted to speak on holding the crown for me. And what's holding the crown for you? Like what does that mean when you say it?
Holding the crown. Um,
Yeah.
Shoot. So right now I'm working on my kingdom, Heart Kingdom specifically. Um, have an ability to lead myself and others, having the ability to think for myself, and really getting to like the source of some of the questions I have, even some of the questions the world has. Um, keeping my head held high. The crown deals a lot with the skull, with the head. You know, not not letting my crown down to the ground. Keeping my head high in the heavens and always uh, building the light, always polishing that crown so it could shine bright up in the sun. Polishing it just by studying and doing research and gathering more information, gathering more knowledge, and turning that into wisdom. You know, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Okay, what we got here about this beast out to sea?
Oh yeah, there's revelations.
Okay.
Yeah, there's revelations right here. We were talking about revelations the other night.
Uh-huh. Speaking on that horror Babylon.
Uh huh.
Yeah, man. I didn't agree with you at first, but I had to when you laid down the script, man, I couldn't really deny it, man. You made that connection.
Yeah, I think we were talking about Cardi B being the
Yeah.
whore of Babylon based off of scripture. Her
Yeah.
relating to the red beast. Her relating to the Scarlet Lady, the the downfall of kings.
Hmm.
It just a lot. There's a lot of symbolism in it. So
Yeah, I didn't want to relate that to her at the time because I was just thinking of the fact that she do seem like she keep it, somewhat real, you know. Um, and the reason why I say that because some of the things she say it actually backfires on her, which makes me think that she might be somewhat honest because it's not like she's using her money to have a scriptwriter censor her. She's saying certain things, like talking about payola. Those are things that could have you arrested, like admitting something like that on air. And so she says things to her own detriment, And so that's what makes me think that, she might be kind of like an honest person. And so I was looking at her as a married woman right now. I don't know what their relationship entails, but as far as what they present to the public, she's married. And so that's why I kind of had an issue with her being labeled as the whore of Babylon. But I do remember you talking about sitting on the scarlet. That's kind of like being the monthly cycle,
Hmm.
which is natural to all women, but you have to add other factors in, which she wears the scarlet as well, being
But
that she, big bull and big blood, And so then when you threw that blood in there and that she wears the scarlet and she wears the purple, and I'm thinking, okay, well the purple could be literal and it could also be, more abstract in the sense that purple is royalty. So wearing the purple could also be wearing the royalty, but she really does literally wear the red, whether she's wearing all red or not, because she's a blood. So then I'm like, okay, that's the scarlet. And then the taking down of the kings. Well, there's been many a great man that's probably fallen to her over the time. Not that she hasn't taken L's as well, but her L's led her to the top right now, or at least what most would consider the top. So after that, I had to concede with what you were saying. Like you had some really killer points that
hmm. Oh yeah, here was another one. Is in verse 16. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over to the beast their royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw in the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. I like that. Well, I don't even say I like this, but where it says they will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. She used to also be a stripper.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, man, that's real, bro. Yeah, it fits the it fits the prophecy, man. And and when you say these things, I'm sure you're not saying that it's limited to her. This is a role that is played out throughout the many years.
Mm,
There's always let's say a Scarlet Madonna, so to say, and a superstar that reached these heights. And there is a trail of people brokenhearted and a very vicious spirit on these people.
mm. It, that sort of makes me wonder if the Scarlet Woman also pertains to the woman in Us. If I could find it somewhere over here.
I mean, when you say it may pertain,
Because
how
she's wearing
so?
red, huh?
Oh, she might not necessarily take over the lust factors, but she takes on the vengeance, the envy and jealousy, and things of that nature. What would you say would be her cup of fornication and debauchery? Because when you kind of think about her story, um, it's not necessarily justified, but it it's kind of like if you were to put yourself in those shoes, that might be a move that a lot of people will want to make, whether if they actually went for it or not. So, I mean, where are you going with? Where are you going with that?
Let me see. I'm not too sure because the first symbol went up was the red suit, and I'm
Okay.
thinking, the Whore of Babylon, she's known by her red, a lot of red energy, the riding on the scarlet wave, and her. Let's go back to Revelations.
And riding on the scarlet wave, that's the cycle, right? The monthly cycle.
Yeah, it could be as a deeper symbol
Yeah.
or one of the symbols of it.
I like when you use that though, because whether if that's what it's talking about or not, what I like about it is it gives me this inkling of just pure anger. Like when you get that cycle, it motivates you to do these types of things, of debauchery. It's like I can't really get it in right now, and some people can. We don't have to go that deep into it, but a lot of people don't get it in. So then it's kind of like they have all this anxiety, and a lot of people feel more lustful because they're unwanted, and then there's anger, resentment, and there's almost like a spirit that comes over certain people, and the crazier they get, that's the more they give into it. And so when you say like just riding off of that scarlet, that red, that's symbolic of just moving off of that anger and emotion because of that time, and that could deal with any time.
And it seems because the woman in the red, she it seems since they had surfaced, maybe the rise and fall of a nation.
Yeah, I can see that too. I can definitely see that.
Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. Would you say the doppelgangers are the abominations?
I would say they could very well be, with the exception of their leader, because she's wearing the red, but technically the other person should be wearing the red.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, oh, you know what? The lady in the red lust is the lust of her doppelganger, of her tethered being, because the tethered being had lust for her lifestyle. So she took on her husband. You know, they had a child together, I think, or something. So they got it in. You know what I mean? Like, and she got to pretend to be this other person. So that deals in the lust, because it's kind of like you took it a whole nother level than just taking someone's man. You took on their whole life. That's like deep lust. So I would say, cause if you was to place judgment on the characters, it would be both of them because they're technically the same person. And so what either one did, you could use as symbology as one whole.
Hmm. So I'm looking at this as well, verse 7. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast she rides, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up out of the abyss and go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come." Um, Part of this, I think, is funny because Like when the doppelgangers come out of the abyss, they came from the underground. It's like they came from nowhere. Well, they came out of a fun house, actually. You know, it was a fun house with different different types of mirrors. That if you looked in different mirrors, you will see a different version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
A
these.
house of mirrors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
House of mirrors. Um, what I really like about that whole theme of just holding on to the crown and this idea that it's almost like these people that are your family are coming to take your place,
Hmm.
man. And then when we go into the Babylonian theme, I think about how the Bible talks about the confusion of faces and how Israel went into Africa and lost their identity.
Hmm.
You and they became all these different nations. And so, how the Hebrew Israelites teach is that these when the Lord is addressing the different nations, saying we're all one, He's really talking to Israelites within those nations. So just like how if someone was to ask me what I am, I'm just gonna say American. But to someone who thinks everybody's black is automatically African, I would probably sound like a fool. Or to someone who thinks that every black American is a Hebrew Israelite, I'm an idiot, from their perspective. And so, that to me is kind of like how, again, we have the idea of this crown comes back in the form of identity and knowing who you are. Like, in order to be the king, you have to have this nation. And in the movie, I saw that the one thing that the people that were coming to take over had was a cohesiveness. They were all in the red chakra energy. They all were using, scissors. Well, didn't they all have scissors?
I believe so. Gold.
Yeah, so that was that was a weapon of choice. It kind of reminded me of when they would talk about how war would jump off in certain countries. I can't think of any particular name, but where they would run out of soldiers, and the farmers would gather farm tools and hop on the enemy line. So they came with what they had, which was scissors.
Hmm.
I was also just thinking about the people of the sea. Every time I hear people talking about Egypt or Kemet, they always talking about it came to ruin by the people of the sea.
Hmm.
I was just thinking of what if the people of the sea were these people who wanted to know if there were other continents, and so they went and sailed the other half of the uncontinental world, and that took them generations. So they had children on boats, you know, and survived off, years and years, maybe even a century or more, on a boat, having offspring, and just came up on some land. They just saw, Kemet or wherever they pulled up on. Like, what is these people of the sea?
Hmm. Like people, like the people coming on boats or people coming out of the waters.
Well, they definitely came out of the waters, but why would they call them that? Like the Greeks are the Greeks. The Romans are the Romans. They're not. And then we were to the point where people had boats, so it wasn't like niggas wasn't making boats. Just like I was thinking about Noah's Ark, and I was thinking like, okay, I was thinking like the Earth floats, right? That's my hypothesis. That the land mass of the Earth floats, and
That's what they
so,
say.
huh?
That's what they say about the continents surrounding Africa.
Man,
Africa
I think
continent.
all the land mass is floating in water, man. That's what I think. That's just my hypothesis. And so the world can't really drown underwater. Now, what causes something to sink, I would say, is splitting and having either very dense, rich minerals such as lead, high lead content, or things that are much heavier than water, and it makes it not non-buoyant. And then usually, and this is just a hypothesis, um, it it's just not, it's connected to something. So when the water rises, it it can't it appears to go under, but the water is just rising in that particular segment only. But as far as the continental or the land mass of Earth, it's not gonna go under. The majority of it won't, because it's floating in the water. What do you think about that?
Uh, I can see that being a thing. There's been rumors that the continental drift that taking place because we used to be one landmass
Hmm.
uh, as Pangea or whatever the name that we had back in the day, and we eventually broke apart and start floating elsewhere. But then we also hear of other land masses that have sunk down into the sea. So it could be like what if the minerals that was allowing it to stay up left and just sank through, uh, or other stuff. The so-called global warming, where the ice has melted. Um, Shit, I wonder how many ice ages we had across the planet.
Yeah, I did have kind of a tough time with explaining how the certain portions sink, and the only explanation that I can think of is that maybe in that area didn't receive enough. I think like people dying and things of that nature make mineral like rich, and if you don't have a lot of fresh bodies in the area, it becomes more like a desert land area, which formulates like sedimentary clay. Like, it's not solid like red clay, it's more like rocky and less refined. If it gets real dry like that, it's not enough minerals
And
so
would
that
you
it'll
throw in
stick.
like, animals into that pot too?
Yeah, just anything dying in the area makes the soil richer. People living in the area and dying and things of that nature makes the soil richer with more things like oils and resins, sticky things like that. you know.
Hmm.
And so if you don't have an area where people dwell at and make waste and create this sticky resin, then what you have is more like sand. And so areas like that can easily get washed in the water because it's not even solid. It, like the land that's not built on solid rock is the land that will probably sink. But I'm still working with the theory of how do portions sink. And then I would even go as far as the sinkage could be caused by people.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that things don't sink at all, but I'm just saying that they could be constructed by people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It could be all a part of that natural tide.
Yeah. So I would say that that has a lot in my mind has a lot to do with it. How solid because okay, when minerals are coming from the water to make land, there's that in between process. And so something might process enough to whereas we think, okay, we could walk on it, it's solid, and we start putting all kind of shit on it and building tons of weight, and the land wasn't as solid as people thought it was. So it just sinks because this land was full of basically sedimentary sand, and it's basically water underneath it. And then you bring some damn limestone from somewhere else, and you got lead and steel all constructed in this particular area, and then it just cracks and it falls underwater because of the weight you've placed upon it. Just like if you put a pyramid in the wrong place, like if you build the pyramid, but there's hella moisture under the ground, and the weight somehow caused uh more of the moisture to come up, and slowly but surely it just starts to sink.
Hmm.
So I think these sinkages were caused by people, and they're beginning to learn how to do agriculture, how to build canals, basically trying to figure out ways to get water, utilizing different things to go into the ground to build holes deep enough to get water to certain areas, and they just fractured that ground more than they should have, and it cracks. Because most of the time when they tell you about something sinking, they call it a sunken city. They don't talk about like a sunken nothing that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's always this grandiose thing that sunk. So I'm thinking that this is constructed by humans. And had humans not been doing whatever they were doing, um, we would have more land mass and less water.
Hmm.
But I think the land mass has to somewhat correspond with scientific hypothesis that we are 90% water or 75% water. Let's just stick with the latter, 75% water. So let's say that the planet is about 25% earth and 75% water. And everything, in order to have its balance, has to have that exact ratio.
Hmm. That's interesting because we also reflect the planet too, so we could say we're probably like 75% water and the other percent, physical stuff.
Yeah, earth. Earth, because
Yeah.
a man is said to be made of clay or made of earth.
Yeah.
Angels are made of light, and the demons are made of fire.
Hmm. Angels are made of light,
Uh-huh.
demons of fire,
Uh-huh.
our bodies of clay.
Yeah, human people.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we do talk about this idea that that, you know, we made the other nations. And so when you get towards the coastal regions, you start seeing, you know, because once you, like when you make the other nations, they're gonna look kind of like you, but they're gonna look a little different. You know, they might be lighter, they might be a little taller, different hair. You know, they're gonna have all different type of genetic variations. And so when you send them out, naturally they'll be rejected. But then when uh, you know, you give them certain things, give them certain wisdom, give them certain power, knowledge, then they can make themselves the it factor. And so you'll see a line of where the genetic variation started from, and then how it dispersed itself into a different, a lighter version of itself, into a different looking and different acting, all the way until you get into these other parts of the world. And so if we run, you know, with that theory, um, then it, you know, all this stuff begins to make sense of this idea of, uh, okay, these people came from us, and instead of saying that, oh yeah, these people, the original African is a Chinese man, and we can see that because we got these African-looking Chinese people. But what if these African-looking Chinese people is the precursor to the Chinese man, like you just said, but they're the first deviation from that original so-called Africanoid black man?
Wait, repeat that last part one more time for me.
So you remember when we remember when, like, okay, what was that video? Hidden Colors,
Mm-hmm.
Hidden Colors, and all these different types of, you know, Black Power education channels were basically saying that, you know, we were the precursor to all nations, right? Then you have uh, uh, the NOI that teaches that you know, the so-called other nations were made in a laboratory by, you know, selective breeding of people and of utilizing RH blood types from humanoid like things and putting them together and being able to make the different nations until we get to all the different races of people we have today. So when we read a story like this, we take it so literal that we're thinking like, oh, well, you just took a black man and made a white man, but we don't think about the fact that these genetic variations took hundreds of years. And so you're not going to start out with a Asian man. You're going to start out with a yellow African man. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then that yellow African man has to keep breeding for many, many years amongst itself only, amongst family, basically amongst its, you know, the created family that you created for him. It has to breed amongst that group, you know, that homogeneous group of people enough times to make, you know, using this theory, that's what I would imagine would have to take place. You get what I'm saying right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, and this goes into that whole cloning thing. I mean, we're not necessarily talking about cloning, but we are talking about the idea of someone creating a race using a different race, or creating another race by finding someone that looks different within that race, find another person that looks different and has certain traits. And these two people that have this genetic variation, having them mate, and then having them have children, and maybe finding another group of people to mate, and then creating a race based off of that. See what I'm saying?
That whole Nazi thing.
Yeah. So then these people are there. There's a timeline to that. It takes, it could take 100 years or more. So when we see African people that look like Arab people, that was the precursor to the Arab. You see what I'm saying? Like when you see like certain like Sudanese people who look like Arab people, but they're real dark and they're considered African people.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were at the lab in that particular area making people, then that's the people they made. If we go with that theory, because it, okay, if Yakub made people, who are they? Right? And if he made them, because we're talking about real people that live today. So who are these people? And then who are the precursor races? And so
Yeah, like
how did this
where did they spawn from?
exactly? So what this is what I'm going at, okay? So we're talking about things being built on coastal regions. Why coastal regions? Because coastal regions are near water and they're cooler. So why build things on coastal regions? Because if you were a genetic variation and people knew that you were made, then you probably couldn't be around other people. So you had to learn how to survive in places that people weren't at. Why are all the greatest things on coastal regions, and why are all the images of people who built them of lighter skin than the people that originally are from that area? Did everyone lie and change the color of these things? Or does it just so happen that if we go with this Yakub theory, that you made people and they became genetic variations, but they were still Africanoid black people, but within their genes are notes and precursors to tell them to become something else, are genetic markers that are going to change them over time. And so this man that you're seeing right here is going to be, after having children, 10 times more paler, no matter what. As long as he breathes within this particular group, I'm going to create a religious thing. I'm going to sink some towns. I'm going to sink some of the Indian villages around so you don't remember, you know. And that's what I was going in as far as why I think land masses are sinking, where I think these different people come from. If I'm going with the theory of Yakub, um, and why these things begin to take place. Let's say if Atlantis is a real place, you know, maybe that's one of the places where the clones are the so-called, or the, you know, I'm gonna call them clones, or the genetic variations were taken over, sunk this shit.
Hmm.
You know, I don't think California can take that much weight. That's why it's cracking. You know, I
San
really
Francisco
don't think
in
so.
particular, that looked like it's built to fall.
What is?
San Francisco.
Yeah. I mean, when I learned about liquefaction, it blew my mind. They were like, all they did was put landfill out under it, and so in between landfill is moisture, which is just water. So that means that if something strong enough comes, it's gonna get in between all that gravel, and you're gonna see San Francisco look just like Japan, where the concrete is moving like waves of water. Did you remember seeing that?
Yeah, and I think that's how Emeryville is made too.
Mm.
It's just built upon garbage.
So we think that people just started doing that. They didn't. And so some of these grandiose cities were first attempts of doing such things. Man, these people that build cities like that, they've been trying to do it. They didn't just start with San Francisco, man. Atlantis was one of the first cities, man. And that shit sunk because someone made it.
Bro, that's just like uh what, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when the Willy Wonka character made the different kingdoms out of chocolate, and he told him
Uh-huh.
that he has to enjoy it right then and there because that shit's gonna melt. It's not gonna last forever. You know, all that shit's
Yeah,
gonna stop
man.
eventually.
And so this so I'm just gonna sum up because I said a lot and try to sum it all up. So basically what I'm saying is if I'm moving off the Yakub theory, then there were black people who had genetic traits that made them different. They might have bold eyes, they might have a slightly bigger head, they might just be slightly paler than other people. Some of them might have polka dots or things of that nature. And he would breed those people together. That are or Yakub would do that. And he would find someone else with genetic differences and he would breed those people together. And that's what formulated the different races. Now, part of that genetic differentiation made people different from others and made other people attracted to them by ways of wanting them for whatever, killing them, wanting to, be with them or whatever. But they were different and they needed to be on their own for them to be able to populate. So they were in areas um, near coastal regions where it's cooler, where they can have access to water, and where land first starts building up. Because when you go to water, that's where minerals are building up and land is growing, building upon itself. And so most people want to live close to the water, but they want to stay more inland. But these people learn to survive on the coastal edge. And so they would build things to get away from everyone else because again, they were afraid. These were unwanted people at some point in time. And they would build cities and things of that nature to protect themselves. They had to. And they learned how to utilize the sand and things of that nature around them to protect themselves from their forefathers. And these things would sink the land. You're building a sandcastle on top of thin sand slate that seems like it's solid land, but it's really just new land being built in a almost desert-like area. And you learn how to irrigate and get water and things of that nature. But when you do irrigation, you're putting more cracks in the ground.
Mm.
And so, boom, the shit falls in. And these cities that were falling and sinking were the beginnings of San Francisco, of Dubai. And these are the clone or the entities that Yakub made. And these are people that exist today. If we're going with the story, they're all the other nations, the Asians, the Arabs, uh, the uh, the non-Africanoid black man, the Asian so-called Asiatic black man. Um, they're everybody that we know for the most part.
Shit, that seems like it's also related to the, Jacob story. You know how he was it the 12 nations that came out of him.
Hmm. What about it?
Um, like how Yakub and Jacob are, isn't that the same name?
I don't. I've heard that. It makes sense. Yaqub, I think they would say, or and then they say that you could call Yaqub, Yaqub, or Jacob. Yeah, they would say that. But they also describe Yaqub, not Jacob. They also describe Yaqub as having like a split forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Really, and when I think about that, I think of Arab people. Not all of them have that, but a lot of them do have that, and a lot of people who are mixed Arab descent have that, like the either the Ethiopian or the Eritrean people. I'm not sure, whichever one has the most mixed Arab descent. Um, they tend to have those type of foreheads like that.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, man. So I'm thinking that I'm starting to believe that the Bible is not talking about black people, man. I really am starting to believe that, and I am starting to believe that they are talking about a Middle Eastern people. You know, so now with Yakub being a Middle Eastern person, I could see him having that split forehead that they're talking about.
Mm.
And maybe himself being a genetic variation. No different than how Hitler was half Jewish, but he hated Jewish people, and then yet his actions led them to receiving their own land.
Yep. We actually ended up with most of the Nazi scientists, Project Paperclip. Yeah, the
Mm.
United States did.
And they're not going to let some good scientists go to waste.
Oh no. You see, if energy can't be created nor destroyed, they transferred that shit over here.
Yeah, man. When I was hearing about that reel, talking about just like they would get the finest German women and let them grow their hair long and put them under like different practices. Some could be like celebratory, all different types of practices. I didn't really do much research into that. And under these different practices, they would channel entities, ancient entities, and that would allow them to build the technology that the Nazis were using. And it was very important for these women to have very long blonde hair, as long as it can grow, and be of the finest stock of German descent, in order to channel these entities to build such things, as aircrafts or whatever, what have you, whatever they were, spaceships, so-called spaceships, or whatever they were doing. Yeah, man.
Hmm. That's interesting. They
Yeah.
literally perform rites to channel these different entities to build these different machines.
Hmm.
They was really working with the spirit world on that one.
Yeah, man. So when people tell me that, these cats don't know anything about the spirit realm, I can't say that they don't. And if I'm just going to stick with the Yakub theory for the sake of tonight. Yakub created these entities, you know, to have wherewithal and being. And what I mean by that is wherewithal and being is making them no different than anyone else outside of the fact that they know that there are people that wouldn't want them here, or there are people that might desire them and want to take them away. And so these things are these issues, and then also needed to be near coastal regions, force them into learning how to create cities and things of that nature to protect themselves, to make sure that they can have irrigation for water, so that they can lock themselves up in a city for a given point in time, fight off enemies. That's why these great monuments were built. Other people had no need to build those type of things because there wasn't necessarily an imminent threat outside of just life itself. But when you're like a different being, but you're like another being, like let's say for example, if a lion sees an all black lion, it might try to attack that lion simply because it just doesn't understand its being. Like you're like me, but you're nothing like me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's by nature that if Yakub was making genetically altering people, there are going to be those of us that just want those people to take them unto ourselves, which would ruin that whole science experiment.
They're like mutants.
Yeah, because then it's going to start mutating the genes. But then I would imagine over time, if they keep coming back to the non-mutated gene, that maybe their gene pool could be straightened out over time. If we want to look at one being straight. But yeah. So it was important to teach them values to make them stay separate from the other people. So that's where religion and things came in at. And these people would created walls for themselves and lived in those things for protection, man, until they had convinced the world through media that they were the most powerful.
Hmm.
Going with the Yakub story, man. And then when, because I tell people this stuff, and I'd be like, that's kind of why the Babylonians and all these people that were building these things, they were black people, but they were the genetic alteration. They were the genetic alternative created by Yakub.
Yo, Prometheus. Did you see that movie?
I did. I do remember like was that like with the white being? It was like a
Yeah.
alien type thing, bluish white.
Whatever he was,
Yeah,
he had it.
I just remember the beginning of that movie, but I don't remember quite anything after
I just remember him adding himself to the water. I thought that was interesting.
that.
And like you describing the Yakub story in genetically altering things. Um, him adding his self to the water source. Whatever comes out of that water source, has his bloodline in it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember of watching that movie. I feel like I watched it like twice, but it's been so long that it's very vague. I just remember that beginning, seeing him on some
Mhm.
type of rocky region and just like laying down, like out of it, and being some type of genetically altered, godlike being, superhuman type Euro being, you know.
Yeah, I think that's one of the movies that I'm a rewatch. Get a closer look at it. Yeah, this is what this cat looked like.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, brothers look like like a albino.
It look like Yaku. That's one of the first ones that came out the lab, man.
Oh, yo, this cat right here. He's an android.
Hmm.
This blonde-haired cat. And you see this guy, this warrior-like figure, taking the head of the android.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming back to me now. This was surrounding the alien.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even remember none of this stuff. Man.
Yeah,
I just
I
remember that
gotta
guy.
rewatch it. I gotta rewatch it.
Yeah, I just remember that guy right there. Yeah, I'm on this zombie movie slash bunker hideaway type movie. That's what I'm into
Huh.
right now. I'm not really into much anything else. It's got to be like what I call introspective zombie movies. And like, I like watching movies that deal with people being in cramped spaces and like how like just anxiety and how the human mind will just crush them. It doesn't need to have a monster or anything like that. Like that, the mind is the monster enough. And just to see how people change when food start getting low, things of that nature. We love movies like that.
Oh, here we go. Prometheus,
Prometheus.
possibly meaning forethought, is a Titan. So a Titan energy again. Culture hero and trickster figure who is credited with the creation of humanity from clay. We were just talking about the humans being of clay. And who defies the gods by stealing fire and giving it to humanity as civilization. Hmm. Prometheus is.
Oh yeah, Prometheus is the firebringer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Prometheus. I always wondered if Prometheus is the same as Apollyon.
And this movie came. The movie Prometheus came out in 2012.
Hey, look up Prometheus and Apollyon.
Okay. Prometheus and what?
Apollyon.
How you spell that?
A-P O-L-I-O-N.
Uh,
Not right.
yeah.
No, not take out that other O.
Which
Take
other?
out because you added like you take out that L right there, yeah, and that O.
That L and that O.
Yeah.
This?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I guess there's no connection.
What is Apollyon?
Look, that's one of the names of Satan in the Bible. But I relate Apollyon to Apollo, and I think it was talking about Apollo. So that's I don't know if that's an actual thing, but that's just what I related to.
Okay, let's see what we got. The Greek destroyer, Apollyon, the demonized god. Huh. The Apollyon can be translated as destroyer. Apollyon was the same name of the god of the sun known to the Greeks, known as Apollo or Apollon. The god
Okay.
Apollo acted as the destroyer of evil, but he was also a bringer of doom. He was also known as a god of purification, who was associated with the sun for his ability to be omnipotent. Apollo was also known as a god of prophecy, as many would bring their sacrifices to him as to him at his temple at Delphi to have their oracle read. The Greeks received oracles from Apollo at Delphi for matters of daily life and also for military purpose as well. Apollo as a destroyer. For example, within the poetry of the Iliad, the god Apollo sends a plague of destruction on the Achaeans, which could also which could only be stopped through prayers and sacrifices to Apollo. The practice of offering sacrifices to Apollo lasted well into the 3rd century, and in some places, the cult of Apollo lasted until the 6th century CE. It was also known that Apollo had a holy day each 7th day of the month. The 7th day of each month is holy to Apollon, and of course, the same tradition is used in the Christian calendar where the 7th day is named after the Sunday. And is considered holy and as of the day of the rest. In Greek myth, Apollo was the son of Zeus, a sky god, the twin of Artemis, goddess of the hunt and of the moon. Just like Artemis, he carried a bow and arrow which he used to cause destruction. As the goddess Athena watched over Apollon as at the Battle of Troy, she titled Apollon as a striker from afar. This is similar to the biblical John's writing that tells how Apollon is from a bottomless pit of destruction. Apollo was known as the twin of Artemis, and he had also been referred to as the striker from afar, as found in the uh, hymn to Apollon. Ugh, that's a lot on Apollo. The demonization of Apollo by the church. A god is demonized by a new religion as a way to make public turn from their old ways. This happened to many Roman and Greek gods, Apollo amongst all of them. When the worship of Apollo was Romanized, adopted by the Roman people, he took on an additional title of Apollon Luciferus. Many other Roman gods also took the surname to denote their powers of being a light bringer. The root of this name belonged to the Greek phosphorus and eventually to the Roman Lucifer. The public worship of Apollo in the Mediterranean was in direct competition with the development of Christianity, allegedly during the time that John wrote Revelations. The use of the name Apollon within the Bible as the angel of the pit was a direct association with the Greek god Apollo as Satan, an adversary to Christianity.
Yeah, so when I think of Prometheus, I relate him to Apollyon, Apollo. I guess they're not the same entity. But he's a light bringer. So anybody who brings in light is, to me, is kind of like a satanic figure.
Hmm.
And I have to kind of make that objective. And so when it talks about God making light, that's talking about God bringing down Satan, the light bringer.
Oh, that
You know what I'm
see that?
saying?
Yeah, that reminds me of Thor. Have you watched Thor, the first one?
Um, I watched that, but I don't remember it for nothing.
So,
I do remember them like different fight scenes and stuff.
so in Thor, I think Thor played that Christ figure, but also the Lucifer figure, because when he was in the higher realms, he wanted to start fights with the frost giants, trying to relive the glory days of his father, but his ego got in the way, and he sort of defied his father. And it's like, you old fool, something, 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 something that Thor says something. And then Odin was not having none of that shit. He was like, all right, I'm going to cast your ass to earth. Odin, the god, cast his son down to earth and threw the hammer down. Whosoever worthy can wield that hammer. So bro had to like live his life as a fucking human until he was worthy again to lift the hammer. And he didn't become worthy until he was like, he got over his past ways and was there to help the people. I think he literally sacrificed himself to help the people. That's when he became worthy. So that was one of those Lucifer mixed with Jesus type of figure.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how they fuse those two.
Mm-hmm. And who did you say again?
Huh?
Who are you talking about again?
Thor.
Yeah, Thor.
Yeah, Thor. Thor is because he got cast out of Asgard to Earth
Mm-hmm.
in the first Thor because he was arrogant and became unworthy. He didn't become worthy again until he like sacrificed himself to save some of the humans in Midgard or the Earth realm.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he was able to like become worthy again, and that was very like Lucifer falling out from heaven to earth type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
But then not only falling to earth but getting back up to his rightful place. So it's like, yeah, the angel fell, but he wasn't supposed to remain on earth, especially when you learn your lesson. This Thor character sacrificed himself for the people of Earth, which that was his role. That was supposed to be his role anyway, was to protect the nine realms. The Earth is one part of the nine realms.
You know what the 9 cities or the 9 gates are?
What are they?
It's your eyes, your nose, your ears, the butt, the penis, the vagina.
Hmm.
They're the orifices of the body. They call it in the Vedas. They call it the city with 9 gates, which is the body. And you're the guard of the city with 9 gates. You ever heard that?
No, that's new to me.
Okay.
You know, the Vedas always got the interesting stuff.
Yeah, man. I was listening to CRSNA Contradictions, man, and he brought up some really good points. And one that stick to me um, was that he said, if we do believe that Jesus died for our sin, does it still count if he was resurrected?
Hmm.
And he had made a point that nothing else that dies is resurrected. It's just dead. And then people said, nah, but Christ resurrects it. But then nothing else came back the way Christ did, so it's not the same. You know, the body is gone, but he came back in the spirit, and where did his body go? What do you think about that? Like, if you resurrect, does that count as dying?
Well,
Like, I went through a damn near death experience. Is that a goddamn resurrection?
could be. You know,
I
uh,
don't think so. It could be though.
you know, if you went through like some form of pain during uh your shit, you chilling down for like 3 days, knocked out for 3 days, like you have exhausted yourself or something. Like you gave up some type of energy. You done gave up something. Now whether you died or not, you know, did you really give up your life? Could be. And then you probably came back. I actually asked that myself. Like, is that really a Is that really like does it really count if you come back?
Yeah, man. I don't know, man, because it's kind of like, did you actually die? You know, like if someone is clinically dead, but then let's say right before the coroner zips up the bag, they start breathing and they wake up. That person is not still considered dead anymore.
It was very much
And
alive.
they might say, well, it might have been an issue with our machine, a miscalculation. Um, but the person didn't die. So if you resurrect, because people have gone through, I used to see a guy in Berkeley for years who only had half a body, and it looked like he didn't even have part of his torso. It looked like he really had most of a bottom rib cage, and he used to ride around on a skateboard with his hands. It would move very fast. So, um, as far as mutilation is concerned, mutilation doesn't determine death. So if someone resurrected back then, it's questionable if they even died.
Hmm.
And could, from their standpoint, because during that time there was no surgery. So if you came back, motherfucker, you resurrected because we didn't help you. Like we didn't help you at all. And so if you came back, that shit's a miracle, a resurrection, and all that shit. You know, especially before there was surgery or when the surgery first started, you can imagine how gruesome that would be. So if a person survived that shit, we gave you milk of poppy and some fucking brandy and cut your shit open and took shit out and stitched you back up. And when you started speaking, they were scared. They were like, "Oh shit!" They didn't think that shit was gonna work. They were looking at each other like, "Is this nigga a zombie?" They're trying to think if they should let you live. You know, that's what I think Frankenstein is. They show you like an extreme, but what they were showing you was somebody who had just been towed up so many times and was rich as hell and could afford for scientists to use cutting edge technology to keep him alive to the point where he became some type of freakazoid. They just made the story more dramatic for entertainment purposes. But really, it's kind of like the person had so many different nervous systems attached to him that he just went berserk.
Damn. Damn.
You know what I mean?
Oh shit. Motherfucker had way too many pathways that didn't connect, but they
Yeah.
connected. It was just like forced onto him. Like cats
Yeah.
that be having like 9 heart transplants and
Uh
shit.
huh. Yep. And be wilding out because you got this whole other ass heart in you that had this whole other rhythm. And you just stick it in your heart and it's supposed to figure out your body's rhythm and move at that pace. It's like
And hearts don't normally
crazy.
like transfer over to other bodies. So it's
Yep.
what the fuck?
You know, 'cause they always show you in movies these super warriors that have been killed and they bring them back. So the art of bringing someone back to life has been a long practice because they're not technically dead. They're just fucked up. And as someone who has actually been fucked up before, really bad, I can honestly say that I don't think I resurrected. I was just in really bad shape and I bounced back. You know what I mean? There was times where I was gone for days, like completely incapacitated. So that's a reality to me. But then it's kind of like if that happened to me in ancient times and I survived that shit, that would be a literal miracle. Nobody who goes through some freak shit survives that usually. So, when I hear stories of a resurrection, it sounds beautiful. But then I'm not even trying to say that the story is lying. I'm just trying to say there's many perspectives on it. And so think about it like this. It says someone died for your sins. But for in Old English also means because.
Hmm.
Someone died because of your sins. Because you sinned. And your sin was that of naysaying or going along with the crowd and allowing something that you consider to be God be slain before you and you not be slain first. So because of your sin, you lose your God. Not because God loves you, he died for your sin. He said he died for the sin you did, motherfucker. That's what he's saying. And you thinking that he's saying died.
Oh, he died for my sins. No, he
For
died
your
for
sin.
no sins, motherfucker.
Died because of because you're not thinking in terms of old English. For your sin, he has died. So you're thinking in modern English. Oh, he died for my sins.
So it's like a drunk driver.
Uh-huh.
uh, a motherfucker that you hit died because of your drunkenness, your sin,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you didn't know it because you was drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Until you came to, it's like, oh shit, I done killed an innocent man. Wow.
It's a wrap. And so, people are so full of themselves that even when they probably heard that scripture for the first time, probably even the original Christians probably believed that he had died for them. as opposed to he died because of them. Right? So they're all worshiping, they represent Christ hella hard, and someone's trying to explain it to them, but they're not trying to hear that shit, man. The other one sounds better to me. So I like the translation and understanding it like this because it suits me better. But when you really think about it, because logically, if he died for your sins, then that either means that you can sin if you want to. 'Cause they always say that doesn't mean that, but it does. That's why you said it doesn't mean that, because you know that shit means that. Stop playing with me, man. You know it means that shit, man. And you know you don't want me doing that inside your church, so you're gonna teach it. But the one thing that everyone thinks that it means, you're gonna tell them that it doesn't mean that. And you make sure to put that in. Oh, but it doesn't mean you can sin when you want to. But he died for your sins. If you tell me someone paid for my motherfucking cheeseburgers and I get there, they charge me, I'm gonna be mad. If you tell me someone died for my sins, I sinned, and then I have to pay the price for that shit, I'm pissed off, man. So it makes a whole lot more sense that he died because of your sins, your lack of activity, your lack of understanding his damn teachings that he was willing to die to teach your ass, and you would rather live than have the teacher survive. So you allow people to take away your teacher for you to save your very own life so that you could then lose your life. Because that very beast that you didn't think existed, that you heard about, exists. That which wasn't, then was. And those that were shocked because they didn't know that it would be.
Those revelations, bro. Oh shit.
Oh man. And so then it's really Christ being like, yo, I could have probably been 25 and lived forever and just taught y'all niggas your whole entire generations. But y'all rather live than have me teach your grandchildren, your great great grandchildren, and all that, and have me die. And that was up to you guys. I put it all in your hands. Because I had you motherfuckers who I was kicking it with protecting me. And all you had to do was put your life on the line or at least be willing to die with me, which means that you put your life on the line. Simple as that. I'll teach you everything you need to know, and your life will be a parable unto mankind. Every action you do will be a parable unto mankind. You are currently being recorded. Let them know all of that. And then they forgot that they were being watched by Big Brother, recorded in the holy of times. Every action that they made. You know, if we believe the story is true. And even if it's not true, it's still the greatest story ever told. So, you know, and they dropped the ball, man. And another prime example, see, Tekashi 6ix9ine, he's like, man, I'm not gonna be a Jesus for y'all niggas, man. I'm about to drop a dime on y'all, man, because ideally you should have had me not really pushing a brick like that and slapping somebody like that and stabbing somebody like that. And maybe I do that a couple of times. But I shouldn't have been on there like that. You should have known I'm not with this shit. And then when I act up, you punish me so hard. And now, you know, the shit hit the fan. And I'm not really someone who took the oath like that. Nah, nah. You know, a lot of people learn from the Jesus story. And it's like a lot of people get the opportunity to play. And I'm not calling anybody in particular Jesus, because Jesus is Jesus and so lived in that time and died in that time. And so that's that. But what I mean by that is the option to sacrifice yourself for others, for those who you call your brother or your sister. That option comes to many of us. And the question really is real, like, will you sacrifice yourself for that person? You know, are they truly worth it? And I ask a lot of Christians who really strongly believe in Christ, would you sacrifice yourself right now for the sake of humanity? And they tell me yes. So then I say, kill yourself right now. And then they say no. I say, well, why don't you do it for the sake of humanity? Or why don't you put your life on the line for the sake of humanity? I would. Then why don't you? It's not a matter of when that time comes. It's a matter of looking for it. And it's everywhere. You know, I'm not looking for it. And I learned that I'm not that Christ figure. So I let that energy go because Christ held that down. And I wanted to stop sacrificing myself for others just for the sake of some story I read. But the story is so beautiful, it's just only out of envy and jealousy do I want to have that same beauty and passion for myself. And I want to be that because it seems like a superstar, cool thing to do because I want to be God. But in reality, when I tap into being a human, I have a lot more rights to me who lives as a Sudra. I have more rights in not being God than I would in being God. In the sense that in being God, there is a sense of responsibility. In being a Sudra and what they call a nigger, there really isn't no sense of responsibility. Have you ever thought about that?
No.
Like you could do anything you want to do, and it really shouldn't be bad if people believe what the stereotype is about you, right?
Right.
Because they created us to be a different, disenfranchised group that doesn't even know our own roots. That's automatic killer right there. You have a group of people that have no idea who they have ties to at all. And then you tell them that I didn't make you. Isn't that obvious? It's more possible for you to make me than for me to make you. So I'm not your forefather. So then who is? And we all get left with that question. So what do you deal with when you have a bunch of people who don't have any forefathers to live up to? That don't have a landmass because you can't tell them this is your land. You can't tell them that we're sharing it with you. You just have to let them be there and figure themselves out and create a system to slowly pick them off or send them elsewhere under other different identities and consciousness other than their own. That's a dangerous group of people. You ever think about that, man?
District 9. Did you see that movie?
With the alien roaches thing,
Yeah.
cockroaches.
But they was
Yeah, I remember that.
these is cats that landed out of space and trying to get back home.
They were called prawns.
Wait, were they?
Prods or prawns, I think so.
That'd be.
That was a really popular movie back in the day.
Yeah, I
Were
didn't
you a
even.
kid back then?
Wait, let me see what time it got out. Because at first I didn't want to watch it.
Yeah, I was like that too, because it was too popular. So I was
Yeah,
thinking
I was
it can't be
19.
good.
I was like 19 or 18
Oh,
August.
this was 2009. I thought it was like maybe '03 or something like that. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's not as old as I thought it was.
Yeah, because if I would have to contemplate, like, oh, we forgot ourselves. We forgot something.
Hmm.
um, how I want to know why did we forget, and it's like trying to get that total recall back.
I have a stab at why we forgot, and I think it's because when you lose something, sometimes it's better to stay in the present than to focus so much on the past.
Hmm.
Like, yes, I got a heritage, but my heritage never consisted of this. And then also that takes me back to the scripture where there was a man and there was a warning of military threat, and so he got whoever he could to come join him, to guard the flanks or to go do attack. I don't remember the story perfectly, But anyways, how he had made a selection, and of those men, he needed to cut some more off, and so he wanted to figure out who's going to come with him, who's going to stay. And so what he did was he fed everyone, and the people that used the fork and knife were told to stay behind, and the people that ate with their hands were told to come with him. And the reason for that was the people who were still eating with a fork and a knife wanted to hold the idea of what was, and they wanted to hold the idea of home with them. They had this, they still had that home training. But the people that was eating with their hands understood the urgency of what was to come and had mentally prepared themselves for the change. And so that's the reason why, some people forget who they was, because it's easier to adapt to the newer being that you are now than it is to try to hold on to that which was in a whole different reality.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. More so living in the now.
Yeah. Yeah, right now they calling us nigga. Right now, survival is listening to these new motherfuckers. I don't know who they are. They speak some jibber jabber to me. I learned to repeat it. I done seen other niggas jump off a boat and get eaten by sharks. The sharks are way more scared than this motherfucker, whoever he is, with this damn whip. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna break free one day from this motherfucker. I don't know how or when. I don't know where I'm at. But right now I'm playing ball. And see, everybody say, and this is a killer right here. Everybody say when they watched Panther, Black Panther, that they were, man, yeah, man, the one that jumped off the ship, man, I'm the real one. If you the real one that jumped off the ship, go jump off a damn ship right now.
In fact, you be dead.
Nigga, the same shit going on. Come on, who you talking to? Bro, I want to see a person do it, man. You over here talking about you gonna kill yourself, do it. Don't play with me, man. I don't want to hear that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna definitely convince you that it's time to go if that's what you want to do. So don't tell me that you're the real African that's gonna jump off the boat. What if the person that jumped off the boat was a scary motherfucker? What about that? And the person that didn't was like, nigga, I want that smoke, nigga. Yeah, chain me up. Yeah, put that damn thing around my neck and my mouth, because if you didn't, I'd eat your face off, bitch. Like, really on that bullshit, but just was waiting for the opportune moment. They was like, oh, I ain't trying to get hit by that dog, or I ain't trying to get shot. When this motherfucker had me shave him, slitting that throat up. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna do it right away. I'm gonna wait until everyone trusts me and they think I'm completely broken. You know, if they tell me be a little bitch boy, that's what I'm gonna be. Yeah, I'll play that role because I got a seed line to bring into this world. And you might do the same thing to them, but they're gonna be even wiser and stronger. They're gonna act even more like Coon, but they're gonna know how to even more like a militant come right behind that and fuck you up even more than what they playing like. So I can't say that the people that hopped off the boat was the real one, but I can't knock them neither because some of them cats that hopped off the boat was excellent swimmers, swim elsewhere and did other things. So I'm not knocking nobody, but I can't just say the people that hopped off the boat was the real ones. Huh?
Man, all sides to it.
That's what I'm saying, man. And then the people that was born in that shit, how we gonna knock them? The only people I could knock is somebody that deals in that and mistreats those who they're training or beating or whatever you want to call it, and the people that sell them. That's the only people I could really knock. But then sometimes when you find out the people that sell them was Islam, and they had learned that from them, and they have called themselves Israelites or Moors or this or that, and thought themselves to be different from the others because of this knowledge or whatever they got. So, when I think about this District 9 and how they said that a lot of them connected these aliens with being niggas. You remember that?
Yeah. The fact that they were in Africa.
But wasn't there black people in the movie too?
I think so.
So that's what made it weird.
Well, look at it like this. In Infinity Wars with Thanos, I always thought this was funny. How when Proxima Midnight brought her four-armed black army to Wakanda to fight the black people, it literally looked like black on black subconsciously.
Man.
Like our conscious mind could tell, like, yeah, that these are two separate groups, but subconsciously, they were all black.
That whole, a lot of people go in on that black on black thing too, man, because it's like just because people are black, like I was talking about earlier, when the different nations was made, going with the Yakub theory, it didn't just happen right away. There's every variation in between.
Mm-hmm.
So just like if I'm gonna make a white deli, there's gonna be a U, then there's gonna be a lighter U, 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 a lighter U. Then there's gonna be a U that changes function completely, and then I have to try to bring you back, wing you back into. It's a long process, and each process is a different nation. So when you see all these different people in Africa, you go, oh, Africa's full of all different colors. According to Yakub theory, these are all different sample pieces. And this is one sample group that has learned a certain culture and ideology to separate itself, to marry amongst itself, to remain and sustain itself, and not get with the others, and to transform into the next one, and to protect that group. And then for that group to separate from its forefathers eventually. To do what? I don't know. To destroy itself? Because it seems like eventually you won't be able to make. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it is.
Hmm.
And so then when you go into black on black, you're just looking at something saying that it's dark. But then that's where genetic haploid groups come in at, where I might take a test, you might take a test, and somebody blacker than the blackest parts of me and you combine, and anybody else we know combined, come together, and that person could be half white, part Norwegian, just happens to be blacker. So now if you were fighting him, people would say it's a color war. But if he was more paler, they would say he's mixed. So when you see two dark entities fighting each other, you don't even know if the other dark entity claims blackness to even use black on black. Because most people are not warring over skin color alone. They're warring over ideology. The same way you could have this movie District 9 where they kind of make this alien roach type entity a black man, and then the black man's still a black man, but I guess it's subjugating the roach entity, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm not too sure if I know one of the characters turned into the roach character.
Yeah.
I think it was that character there. Yo, this has been a awesome podcast. Wait, what do we call this? The Occult Freestyle?
Yeah, Occult Freestyle.
Yeah. So that this is part 2 to what I just released from was it April 22nd? I think today is what day of the week is
29th.
29th of April,
2:48
Wednesday.
a.m.
This is almost 3 a.m. So yeah, it's been cool, bro.
All right, man.
So
You gonna chop this up or you gonna put it up over?